Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 60th TWitWoW monthly Q&A. That's right. We've been doing this for 5 years now. It means that the first one was July of 2016. That's unbelievable to me. Next month will officially be the 5-year anniversary of our 5-year anniversary of our first Q&A. But this is our last one within a 5-year span, so that's pretty crazy. We actually when we hit 1,000 subscribers, and we are very close to 2,000 now. We're at 1930-ish, somewhere around there. So it's pretty cool that we've almost doubled our subscriber base in the 5 years that we've been doing the Q&As. I think we have 51 questions today to answer that we've gotten since our last Q&A. John, how you feeling, man?
Let's fucking go. I got this. We got this shit. In the words of Daddy Escobar, we run the bingo. So let's fucking do it.
All right, let's get on into this. First up, we've got 5 questions from, believe it or not, Craig Skiff actually got his questions in before anyone else, or at least he got his first question in before anyone else this cycle. And first question, he said, now that I've restarted my Netflix subscription, what anime shows would you recommend that I watch?
For me, because I think I watch more anime than Ashton, although Ashton, I know you've made even some recommendations to me. Food Wars, Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia. Oh, there's another one. I feel like we watched some good stuff. But you know what? I'm gonna stop. Yeah, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, Food Wars. I feel like there's another anime that I'm forgetting. Death Note is one of my favorites, if you've never seen that one, Craig. But then again, that one's a really old one.
On Netflix?
Death Note is on Netflix. The other ones would be Crunchyroll, so I don't know if Craig would want to go out of his way. Because I think you can watch it free, but it would be with ads. So, that's really going to be up to you, Craig. But yeah, we watch quite a bit. Oh, another one that's on Netflix that you'll want to watch, Craig, Castlevania. Castlevania is a great anime. We have to watch season 4, but it is so fucking good. I love it. And really because Ash and I have had this discussion all the time, and I will come over and I will say American animation also counts as anime. It's a broad thing. One Punch Man too, by the way. One Punch Man is great.
And since we're talking about U.S. Netflix, I know for a fact that Craig has not watched The Legend of Korra. I would highly recommend that as well.
Yeah, both Avatars. If you haven't seen the original one too, get on that shit. And get hyped because Nickelodeon now made something called Avatar Studios, so we're gonna get a lot more shit from that universe, and I am fucking.
I believe Craig binged Avatar: The Last Airbender like either last year or the year before, something like that. I think he binged Avatar, like the original series, but I don't think he's seen Korra. So
yeah, so definitely check that out. Future Diaries, another good one. I'm personally fond of that one. Hellsing Ultimate is pretty fucking badass, and I say Ultimate because the original,
because I'm pretty sure that's on Netflix.
I did mention Attack on Titan, and I think that is on Netflix. At least the early seasons. I don't think the latest stuff. I think you'd have to go to Crunchyroll for that. Oh god, there was actually another.
I mean, it's not Japanese anime, and he did want Japanese anime, but from an animated show perspective, Hippo and the Age of Wonder Beast is fucking amazing.
Oh yes, absolutely. What else? Because I know there are probably other ones that I'm forgetting, but you know what? I'm gonna table it. If you have any other suggestions you want to give Craig personally,
this is more of a you question than a both question. I know he said.
Then yeah, we can move on to the next question from Craig. Then.
All right. If there was a one Hell in a Cell match ending that you had the power to change, which match ending would you change?
Just to clarify, do you mean on the whole pay-per-view or just specifically the Hell in a Cell matches inside Hell in a Cell?
I think
are we talking about the stip or the pay-per-view?
Hell in a Cell matches throughout history, like the match itself.
Which ending would I change?
I know my answer immediately.
I liked how Brock Taker ended because it showed what a freak Brock is. You know what? Charlotte Sasha. That ending sucked, because if I remember correctly, she tried throwing Sasha through the table, didn't work, and then she hits a natural selection, and then that's fucking it.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, Sasha and Charlotte. Yeah, and Sasha going over. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would.
So
I would definitely change the Fiend Seth Rollins Hell in a Cell match so that the Fiend wins because fuck that ending.
yeah, perfect, man, perfect.
All right, third question from Craig. This is just for me. He said, "Do you believe that Justin Fields should be the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears in Week 1 this fall?" Hell yes, absolutely. I honestly think they should tailor the entire offense around him. They should make the Justin Fields offense, that should be their default setting. This needs to be Justin Fields' team. It should be his offense to run. The offense should be tailored to his skill set. He's literally the most accurate passing quarterback in this year's draft. He's literally got a higher accuracy percentage than Trevor Lawrence even had in college. And he runs a 4.4. Like, if you aren't doing everything in your power to give him the reins to your offense and put him in the best possible position to succeed, you're fucking up in an unimaginably stupid way. I can't even imagine being foolish enough to do anything other than give Justin Fields everything that he could possibly need. Like, you already have a good receiving core in place. Your offensive line is good. The actual players are there. You just need to tailor the offense to him. You need to give him everything. Like, literally, if he was so comfortable in that Ohio State offense that he doesn't feel comfortable playing in anything else, you call up Urban Meyer and you ask how to install that offense. Like, that's how special of a talent Justin Fields is to me. And if he's not starting, they're not trying to win because he's their best shot at winning. Fourth question from Craig John is for you. What books would be a great way to introduce me to the concepts of a progressive mindset?
Whoa. I feel a little out of my depth here on this one. Progressive mindset. See, I hate to be that guy, because when you say progressive, Greg, I think you mean like democratic socialist. Whereas, like, I'm even further left than a lot of Dems. So I don't really know what
Introduce him to the mindset of anarcho-communism, John.
There's literally a book called The ABCs of Communism. Obviously, the Communist Manifesto, because everything I think always comes back to Marx eventually. I've always heard Kropotkin's The Conquest of Bread was good because that is, like, I think the anarcho-communist text. There's another one that I'm thinking of because again, Kropotkin was Conquest of Bread. Nicola Malatesta, I think he was an Italian anarchist. I hear his writings are good. But yeah, I think the biggest answer I would give you, the way Ashton kind of framed it, definitely The Conquest of Bread from Kropotkin. And then I'm trying to think of what else.
Remember, but I think that's the entry level here, you know?
Yeah, I think it would be. And again, the ABCs of Anarchism would be another one, because that literally is just like talking about the ideology and this and that. I'm trying to think of any other books, because really, yeah, I really haven't read much in that area, honestly. And but I've always heard that those texts were good. And again, Communist Manifesto, just because, you get to see kind of the historical conditions that gave rise to such an idea as communism. Because here's the thing, it kind of existed all throughout history, but it didn't have the name communism until a very specific point.
Right.
Like even Plato's Republic, and Plato's a very conservative philosopher. Even he has a version of communism in his ideal city. Like in his idea of the perfect republic, nobody owns any property, and nobody even like owns a family. So like if you have children, you don't raise those children, right? They're kind of all mixed up kind of thing. So even Plato has a very early form of communism in his ideal republic. So it's existed for centuries. It just doesn't get the name communism until centuries later.
Right.
So yeah, Communist Manifesto, Conquest of Bread, and I think that's all I feel comfortable giving you within my authority, whatever that might be. Yeah. So next question.
Craig, I know you didn't ask me, but for me personally, I would suggest looking into Jacques Fresco's work with the Zenith Project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fifth and final question from Craig. If Shingo Takagi beats Kota Ibushi next month for the IWGP, to retain the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, who do you think should be the one to slay the Rampage Dragon for the gold?
Well, Craig, I'm going to answer the question as you asked it. You said, who do I think should do it? I want Suzuki to get his fucking title run. I think he should be the one to do it, especially because Shingo and Suzuki are tied to each other because they feuded for the Never Openweight title. So I think it's a natural feud for Shingo. You give Suzuki even just a 1 month title reign, and then, you do whatever. Maybe you put it back on Shingo. Maybe then Ibushi gets another shot somehow. Maybe Okada, I think he's going to need more rest than that if it happened around this time, but maybe he would come back. Suzuki and Okada's matches are fucking legendary. Maybe he beats him for it. Ultimately, that's who I think should beat him, is Suzuki, without a fucking doubt. But who do I think will beat him? I could see Shingo holding that until Will comes back, if Will comes back, because he sounds fucked. But that's another totally different conversation for another time. Ashton, what about you, man? How are you feeling about it?
I really want it to be Switchblade.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Jay to beat him because, let's be real, Shingo is still a babyface. He is still a good guy. He's still LIJ for life and all that. So I'm picking a good heel to take it from him. So that's my pick is Jay. Suzuki works too for sure. I mean, obviously I'd be more excited for Suzuki, but trying to be realistic in my mind, which I unfortunately don't think Suzuki winning the title is, as much as I would love it. I think Jay White is the best pick among the realistic options in my mind.
Sure, absolutely.
We got 3 questions from Hypothesis. First up, how would you list Triple H's planned performance centers from least to most problematic? And he lists Middle East, China, India, and South Africa.
I'd have to list South Africa as the least problematic because I know the least about it. I would say the Middle East. Maybe I'd put the Middle East in the middle. Maybe. And I only say that really not even because of anything in the Middle East, although I don't agree with a lot of the cultural stuff there, in some parts of it. But really just because of how we utterly destroyed it. Like, I feel like that's audacity on top of audacity, personally. Yeah. So I kind of put that in the middle.
I think that there's like a power gap between the China-India tier and the Middle East-South Africa tier. Like,
I agree completely, yeah.
Both China and India both are like, what the fuck are you doing? And then Middle East and South Africa are like harmless almost. Like not completely harmless, but like close to harmless.
Because here's the thing, and I don't want to be hyperbolic, and I'm really not trying to be, and I may not be on my game today, guys, because I just got through a family visit, and it was interesting to say the least. But like, I feel like with China and India both, especially because with India they have, I don't know if Modi is still in power, but he's been described as like India's Trump.
He is.
And he is, so yeah, he's still in power. And then with China, China's China, and that's always been the kind of government they've had for years. I think they would both kind of use having performance centers as just another way to like fluff the propaganda. Yeah. Like, look at how great India and China are doing. We've got our own wrestling here. We're developing the best wrestlers in the world and, all that stuff. And you know what, honestly, it's not the worst offense to be party to propaganda, depending on how you go about it, because the way they do the Saudi stuff is sickening. But it is still, your hands are dirty. It's like I'm propping up regimes that have a lot of human rights violations, that are very totalitarian and stuff like that, and I'm getting paid. So, to me, China and India are closer to the Saudi deal than the Middle East and South Africa. Just again, from one man's perspective. So, do you have anything else you want to say about this?
I honestly, out of all the ones listed, I'm a little bit surprised that there's no plan to put one in Australia. I think and Canada even. Australia and Canada, I think, are both far more realistic goals for performance centers than fucking any of these countries, really. Because, Australia, you got Buddy Murphy, you got the Iconics. Well, you had the Iconics and Emma, but you've got Murphy. There are some real prospects coming through there. You might be able to kind of encroach a little bit on New Japan's territory, because if there are kids coming up in Australia or New Zealand, rather than just being like, oh, if I want to be a good wrestler, I need to go to New Japan, they might think like, oh, do I go to New Japan or do I try and get into this WWE Performance Center that's in my backyard almost,
Exactly.
I mean, shit, they love Toni Storm. She's Australian. Like, they're fucking Dakota Kai's a Kiwi. She's from New Zealand. Like, they've already got quite the precedent for really talented performers coming through their system from Australia. I'm shocked that they aren't trying to put a performance center in Australia or New Zealand. Australia seems more likely, but I'm shocked they're not trying to put a performance center there. Maybe within the next 10 years they will. And then Canada's the other one. Like, Brett and Vince have made amends. Like, they're cool now. There's no reason you can't put a PC up in Canada. Maybe even get Lance Storm in there as a trainer since he closed SWA.
Yeah, dude, that's mind-boggling too. Like, how do you not pounce on Canada? Which, whatever we may think of the Canadian wrestlers that have come through in WWE history, like, Canada's like a wrestling fucking capital. That place in Japan are like wrestling fucking capitals on the globe. It's wild. So I don't know how you don't seize on that.
Like, shit, you've got trainers to fill out both of them, or at least you could get trainers to fill out both of those performance centers. But like, damn, I'm really surprised that they're not even considering either one of those places. They really want to go to Asia, mostly, it seems like. But like you mentioned, apparently South Africa is on their radar too, which I don't know. I feel like they've had 2 South African wrestlers that I know of, and neither one of them got pushed anywhere close to as hard as they should have. Because we're talking about Leo Kruger, a.k.a. Adam Rose, and Justin Gabriel. Both of those guys were great talents. And realistically, if you wanted to bring either one of them in, especially, I feel like Kruger/Rose, whatever you want to call them, if you wanted to bring either one of those guys in, I'm sure they'd be happy to be trainers and maybe even like the face of the promotion for the first little while until you get some recognition going. So, like, I feel like South Africa would be the easiest one for them to get up and running out of those 4. But, like, Middle East, you're talking about like some Saudi Arabia shit, because if it's WWE and they're going to try and do something in the Middle East, it's going to be more bullshit propaganda for the Saudi Arabian government. Like, you just know that's just how that works right now. So yeah, definitely a problem. And then like China and India, same thing. You're doing fucking propaganda for their governments. That's just how that shit works.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
All right, next question. That was a good question, honestly. I enjoyed that. Second question from Hypothesis. Do you think CM Punk and Sheamus were supposed to replace Edge and Batista in the Fortunate 4 back in 2011? This was when Edge and Batista were on the way out. Edge retired, Batista quit, and Punk and Sheamus were kind of being pushed. It was when Sheamus won, or actually I think it was 2012 that Sheamus won the Royal Rumble, and Punk had the whole summer of Punk in 2011. And Cena and Orton were both still around, though, so the question is, like, was that supposed to be the new Fortunate 4?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like maybe they were. It's difficult to say. How do you feel about it?
I think it's kind of unfair to do that to put that label on them, because Sheamus is the same age already as John Cena. Like, they're the same age. And like Punk is only a couple years younger than that. And like the Fortunate 4, like, they were chosen in like 2004, 2005, when all of those guys were in their like 20s or even just early 30s. And like, it just seems unfair to be like, oh, this like 36-year-old guy and this 38-year-old guy are going to be a part of the new Breakfast Club. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Sheamus, maybe. Sheamus, they might have been trying to kind of give him that kind of push. Punk, I don't think was ever supposed to be anything. Like, they went out of their way, did everything in their power to make sure that he never really reached the peaks of being over that he could have. Like, they gave him heel Mike time. Like, the whole build to that Money in the Bank match with Cena where he won the title, he was still being portrayed as a heel that whole time, even though fans just rejected the heel status completely. And
yeah, exactly.
And like, even afterwards, they kind of treated him more like a tweener. It wasn't until after he lost the title to Del Rio's cash-in that they really started treating him like a face. And that was when he started getting fucked over. Like the Triple H thing in the cell and the fucking Kevin Nash bullshit. Like, all that was just garbage. And it ended up completely ruining his momentum. So it is really, I think, unfair to say that he was ever meant to be a golden boy by any means whatsoever. Like, I'm not a fan of CM Punk anymore, but like, he was absolutely not supposed to be as big as he ended up being.
Right.
So, Sheamus maybe, Punk absolutely not. What do you think, man? What do you feel about the situation?
I can agree with you, because I feel like they never were really going to invest in CM Punk, like you said. And then when he was out the door, I think he's like, well, whether you're cuffing me or not, doesn't really fucking matter to me because again, I'm out the door. And yeah, he just kind of let loose, and then he took off like gangbusters, like that worked shoot that he cut. I'll never forget the energy surrounding that night of everybody freaking the fuck out. Like, what did we just see on Raw? And it was an amazing feeling because I'm sure that's what a lot of people felt like when Austin would run in and stun McMahon, or when Taker would come back from the dead, the first time. And all that stuff. It was that same kind of buzz. And yeah, he made that fucking magic happen. I don't think they were ever going to have him be anything bigger than what he was, to Ashton's point. I feel like they were going to have him dwindle in the mid-card. Because let's remember, guys, that before he did all of this and before he had the Summer of Punk, he was leading the new Nexus. Mm-hmm. And Nexus was a faction that was always treated like a joke for the most part. Yep. You really think they were going to give Punk's incarnation of the Nexus any better treatment than the original? No fucking way. No fucking way. Now, Sheamus is more of an interesting case because they very clearly wanted him to be like a top guy.
Yes.
They had him win the Rumble.
Dude, they immediately pushed him out the gate, had him beat fucking Cena for the title. Like, they gave him everything out the gate. And then, like, the Royal Rumble win the following year and beating Bryan in 17 seconds at Mania. Like, he was pushed as... And I even remember... After he won that Royal Rumble, he started to almost have like a John Cena vibe about him. Like he kind of started acting and talking like he was this like untouchable, like cocky, arrogant, like I'm the shit and there's nothing anyone can do about it. But he was supposed to be a face, very John Cena-esque at the time. And I didn't like him because of it. And like, that's how you know the WWE wants to push someone, is when they make them unlikable as a face.
Exactly.
It's so I think sad, they wanted him. True.
They wanted him as a top heel in his I say first run, but he's had one continuous run, and in his first early bit, and then they wanted him as a top babyface. So they just wanted him at the top, regardless of capacity, because they just believed in him that strongly. And yeah, and I, in a weird way, I feel like he made a better face than a heel, but not by much, because I didn't hate his face run, and there were some good parts of it. But, yeah, I feel like they really did want Sheamus in that spot. And whether he succeeded or not will be a matter of opinion. But I think he didn't succeed as much as they probably would have liked him to. So that's where I kind of fall with that. But what's our next question?
Third and final question from Hypothesis. Any chance of you guys watching and reviewing the upcoming Netflix series Sonic Prime?
Sonic Prime, you said? Because you kind of cut out there.
Yeah, Sonic Prime.
No, we don't do that stuff. We keep it to purely wrestling content on here. So I doubt it.
Yeah, I think we're probably not even going to watch it, much less watch and review it.
Exactly. Next question.
Next set of questions are from Seth Stadler, a.k.a. Mets. First question just for you, John. Does Vince have early onset dementia, given how much potential he's kicking out the door with all these firings?
I wish it were that simple, Mets, but I just think that he and you and I and everybody are operating under different concepts or different terms of or meanings of the term potential. I think what you, me, and other people may see as potential, Vince sees as a waste, as that's not going to go anywhere. And what you and I see as why is this fucker getting TV time? Vince is that's my guy or that's my girl, for this division. Yep. And we're gonna push it all the way. Because I know, and here's the thing, guys. I know it's almost become a meme, Vince is crazy, or Vince is just so old, he's out of touch, he's senile. And the thing is, there may be truth to that. I don't know. I'm not Vince's doctor. I'm not a family member. I don't have that kind of intimate access. But I just look at it more that this guy has a very different concept of business and of success and what drives success than we do. And when you're going up against Vince McMahon on the turf of his own product, Vince is going to win every time. So that's just how I see it. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So next question.
He doesn't have dementia. He's just a capitalist. It's that simple.
Exactly.
Second question is just for me. When there is no wrestling on and no one to play Among Us or Rocket League with, what do you do in your spare time? I really, most of my spare time is spent doing one of four things, I would say. 5 things. One is talking to people on Discord, whether that be the TWitWoW Discord or the NFL Draft Discord or the Suggest a Laptop Discord or, various Discord servers that I am in. Reddit browsing is something that I do a lot to kill my time. I play a lot of games, various retro games like Game Boy Advance stuff. I've actually really been getting the urge to play Digimon World 2 for the original PlayStation lately. I might whip that out very soon. Maple Story sometimes, Minecraft sometimes. I play some solo ranked Brawlhalla sometimes. Bloons TD6 is another one that I'll play sometimes, that kind of stuff. So that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3. YouTube is a big one. I love browsing YouTube. I'm subscribed to a bunch of channels, and one of the first things that I do when I wake up is to catch up on the tech content, because believe it or not, the people that I'm subscribed to that upload the most often are tech YouTubers, like MKBHD and Gizmo Slip Tech and Jared's Tech and Matthew Moniz and Mobile Tech Review. I'm subscribed to so many different tech YouTubers. It's obnoxious. Like I have this screenshot actually when the Razer Blade 14 AMD edition dropped. I think it was like last week even. It might have been 2 weeks ago. I refreshed YouTube and there were literally 4 straight videos uploaded, all by different people covering this same exact laptop. Just to let you know how in the fucking dirt I am with laptop stuff. So that kind of stuff. And then the 5th thing is my spreadsheets. I have a bunch of different spreadsheets that I use to just kind of get a better idea of, how good certain NFL players are and how good certain college football players are, and trying to figure out what the certain things that players can do in college that translate to them being good in the NFL and stuff like that. And I love doing those spreadsheets, and sometimes I'll even combine some of those things. Like sometimes I will randomly decide to play Pokemon Diamond or something, and I'll spend a bunch of time researching it on Reddit and YouTube and stuff. And I have a Pokedex spreadsheet, and I'll use that to try and optimize my team before I even start playing the game and stuff like that. So those are like my 5 main interests on the computer. And then off the computer, I do a lot of shopping with my mom because she is epileptic and she can't go anywhere on her own. She can't drive, so I end up driving her anywhere she wants to go. She likes shopping at craft stores, and we go to grocery stores, and we go get food. We go out to eat and stuff like that. And I am very, very, very soon going to be signing up to get a gym membership as well. So I'll be starting to hit the gym soon as well. And that's pretty much the extent of my life right now. So there you go. Third question from Metz is is actually for both of us. Do kids shows, now this was hilarious to me personally, John. I think you'll appreciate this too. Do kids shows need to be written more intelligently or keep the status quo of pandering to the least intelligent demographic?
Well, I think we've already seen a wave of intelligent children's shows that appeal to an audience far beyond their demographic. Like for instance,
being sort of the primary example.
Exactly. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender, even though that show is like years old at this point, like I feel like to me that's a paradigm case of a children's show written for everybody, like written with a universal quality. So no, I do, and see, I think we have to be careful too, because like I think we have seen again more children's shows handle themes like death or sexuality, say, and identity and this and that, handling it in a very intelligent way that doesn't overwhelm children and doesn't make them whatever. Like I know a lot of conservative hysterics, this television's making my child gay. No, they probably already were. It's you that's having the tough time. Let's bring you some blankets and some cocoa. And yeah, I definitely think you've been seeing that kind of TV for a while now. I don't even really know what TV, I'm sure it's out there, but I haven't even really seen a children's show in a minute that, like, unless it occurred way late, like you said, SpongeBob, that really does pander to again, what you said, lowest common denominator, and we have to define who that is. But yeah, I feel like children's shows have gotten so much better than when I was growing up. It's amazing, actually, how much they've improved in my mind. because I think they're able to talk about a lot more, and then they're comfortable and they're willing to talk about a lot more than children's shows when I was growing up.
Dude,
like the most I feel like
when I was growing up were like fucking Gullah Gullah Island and shit.
Yeah, like wouldn't you agree, man?
Or am I too old?
No. I get that reference because to me, dude, hell, I think the earliest intelligent children's show, honestly, the more I think about it, is Hey Arnold. Because like I think that show talked about addiction, it talked about race, it talked about fractured families.
I feel like Doug covered a lot of that stuff too.
Did it? See, because I never cared for Doug, so I never got too deep into it. But I believe you if you say that. So like, yeah, Mets, that kind of television has existed for a long time.
I loved that era of Nickelodeon. You know, like the, you know, Doug, Hey Arnold. I think that was around Rocket Power. Rocket Power is a little later, but it was still like around the same time. Rocko's Modern Life, Real Monsters. Like that whole era of Nickelodeon was really, really nice. It was good shit.
Yeah, dude, for sure. So yeah, Matt, I think it's actually existed longer than even I realized, and I think today
I'm sure
it's only
Arthur is very intelligently written too.
Oh yeah, Arthur's fucking great. Did you see that gay wedding episode they had? It was revolutionary television. I loved it. Way to go, PBS. Funded by viewers like me. I remember when I was a
kid too. Do you remember? Oh my God, Bear in a Big Blue House or something like that.
I mentioned that show to Christy just yesterday. Yeah. Honest to God, I'm like, you remember Bear in the Big Blue House? And like, yeah. Jesus Christ.
I remember liking that show though. That was a cool show.
Yeah, I know.
You know what show I looked up? There's like a relatively new show that's on Netflix that's about like robots. That's like a kid's show. That seems like it would be really good. Like, and dude, here's another one that you and I are even interested in checking out. We Bear Bears. That's a great.
Yeah, I know. I know Sal. I think actually fucking loves that show.
We Bear Bears.
And yeah, We Bear Bears. Yeah, and I've seen some clips on it on YouTube, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
we're doing this now.
Yeah,
like what the.
I know Renee. I guess I should say Renee Good. So I guess that she took Moxley's last name. She is the first person that I've ever heard say I want to watch We Bear Bears because she apparently was like keeping up with it, and there was a new episode out that she wanted to watch or something like that.
Yeah, dude. Like I remember the shows even when my sister was a kid. Because keep in mind we're only like 3 years apart. She used to love like young kid shows like Big Comfy Couch. I don't know if you ever heard. I
remember
that.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't know.
I was like 5, I think, when that show was popular.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
so you would have been like 3.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is, Foster? Not to stay stuck on this We Bear Bears thing. But I remember the first Cartoon Network commercial that I saw for that. I wasn't, like, visceral towards it by any means. It's a fucking kid show. I'm not going to get worked up over that shit. And I'm like, oh, that looks cute. You know, it's whatever. But, man, the stuff that I've heard about it being so good. And the same thing with The Amazing World of Gumball. Because that show, when I first
watched that show, too. And, like, Regular Show and Adventure Time. Like, I wouldn't necessarily call those kids shows, but they are animated. And I think kids could get away with watching them without their parents being too alarmed, you know?
Oh, dude, fucking, I wanted to say Rick and Morty when you said Regular Show. That's where my brain's at today. But Regular Show is, it's great. Yeah. I've seen enough clips and enough episodes to vouch for that show.
Rotten Butter mentioning Hilda on Netflix makes me think of, I don't know if this is a Netflix show or a Disney, it might be a Disney show that I saw on Disney Plus. Owl House looks really fucking good, too.
Yeah. No, Mets, I think you're missing out, brother, because I don't know what shows you... Yeah.
Maybe stop focusing so much on how angry you are that they're depicting gay weddings and focus on, like, actually, like...
Maybe you just need to say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. Where all these kid shows play on my streaming device. Nailed it. Next question.
Moving on, that was perfect. 5 questions from Super Blue. Oh boy. First up, when is Tommaso Ciampa going to get even with Karrion Kross for squashing him last summer?
That's never happening. What world do you live in, dude?
He might be scared of Kross because of that match. He's just not mentioned it since. Like, he disappeared for like a month or 2 after he got destroyed and hasn't mentioned it at all since.
Dude, Super Blue, and I say this genuinely, I'd love to know. Like, I'd love to spend a day in the world you live in, because I don't know where you connect these dots, bro. It's impressive It really is. I'm like, man, you got bunnies with those leaps you're taking. God damn. So next question.
What would you do with your perfect vehicle that you chose from February? This is dating back to a question that Foster asked us. Back in February, he asked, what would be your perfect vehicle from anime or cartoons or anything else? It doesn't have to be a car. And you chose the R-Wing, whatever the fuck that is. I don't even know what that is. And I chose a Zoid.
I don't even know what the fuck that is. I
Super
said
Blue wants to know what we would do with the vehicle.
Okay, first of all, it scares me that I gave that answer and even I don't know what that is. Was I high? Was I like...
Maybe? I don't know.
Was I doing a bit, maybe? I don't fucking know what's happening. Hold on. R-Wing. Okay, forgive me, guys. I'm old,
from
and
Fox,
again,
right? From Star Fox, right?
Yeah, from Star Fox. Well, obviously, Super Blue, I'm protecting the fucking galaxy. I'm actually collaborating with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm fucking doing. And then I'm swooping down to Earth, and I'm picking up Ashton, and I'm like, staying at home. Fuck that. You're fighting the galaxy with me. And then Ashton, because he always gets me with the stupidest shit, he's just like, yeah! And he does it right after we get done our theme song. It's like, going on adventures, saving the human race, yeah! And then that's it. And then we cut to me just saving the human race. Yeah, fuck yeah. We're doing some Duck Dodger shit. That was another great show, by the way. Fucking love Duck Dodgers. But yeah, that's what I'm doing with the R-Wing. I'm protecting the fucking universe. You're welcome, everyone. So, what are you doing with your vehicle?
I mean, it's a Zoid, so it's not really practical for anything. I guess I assumed under this that, like, the pretenses were that we were in, like, an apocalypse or something, and I would want a Zoid to be able to just kind of roam the fucking destitute Earth or something like that. Because... You know,
your survival instinct is impressive. Like, everything's going to shit, and Ashton's just surveying it like, man, that's really rough. Man, thank God I have this fucking Zoid. Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is, if you asked me what the perfect vehicle was now, I think my answer would be like a really nice, roomy interior electric vehicle.
Yeah, and me being like, because everybody always dunks on me for being like a 90-year-old, I'd be like, oh, a power chair. That's my perfect fucking vehicle.
Oh my god. All right. So we agree that our answers were ridiculous and that we have better answers now. Anyway, third question, Super Blue. How do you feel about WWE's latest releases, especially Aleister Black after building him up to return to TV?
He's probably already back under contract for all we know. I don't even know how to feel because they don't even still know how they feel. And we don't know how this is all going to end. I will say the most directly, just treating your question as if the release really was permanent and we've all like, you know, it was a clean break and we're all moving on with our lives. I think Aleister's a great talent. It's a blunder by WWE, but again, they're always going to have different paradigms that they're making decisions under than what I'm operating under. And they care about the bottom line, plain and simple. If they can go to their shareholders, Super Blue, and say, hey, we had these talent cuts, but the bottom line improved by this much of a percentage, they're not going to give a shit. They don't give a shit about Aleister Black. They don't give a shit about who's getting pushed and who isn't. All they care about is, hey, what's making us money right now, and keep doing that thing. So, yeah.
Precisely. I don't need to add anything to that. Fourth question from Super Blue. What are you choosing? Oh, this was actually an image. Let me pull up the image. Here we go. The question that he asked was, who are you choosing to protect you? And it's basically one of those, there are 9 images. One will protect you. The rest will attack. Choose wisely. And the 9 options are The Bride from Kill Bill, John Wick, Batman, Iron Man, Jason Bourne, what's her name? Lara Croft. I think Lara Croft. Django from Django Unchained, Han Solo, and fucking S.H.I.E.L.D. guy. I don't remember his name. Not Agents, but like the show, or not S.H.I.E.L.D., 24. Jack Bauer. That's his name. Jack Bauer, 24.
So one protects, the rest attack, right?
Yes.
That's what you said?
Yes, and I know my answer.
I'm just going to go John Wick, because any guy that goes that hard over a dead dog, like, goddamn, that's somebody that's going to fight to the bitter end. That's what I want on my team, so I'm just going to go John Wick.
I'm picking Iron Man because nobody else has fucking missile launchers.
That's true. That's true.
Iron Man is the only one that could kill 8 people at once. Literally just at one time. Like, he just... That fucking laser move that he... Or not laser. The move that he used in the first Iron Man movie where he had, like, the scope poke out of his shoulder. And it was like... Beep, 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 on all the dudes that had the fucking hostages. And then it just... Psh, killed all of them at once. That's all Give me Iron Man. That's easy.
Again, Practical Ashton wins again.
Yeah.
Oh, man. 8 people attacking me? Oh, no. What do I do? Oh, eat lead, fuckers. Oh, man. Oh, God. Really? I hope that there's an alternate universe where you're a supervillain, because you'd be so fucking good at it. I'm rooting for supervillain Ashton wherever he is. Conquer that fucking planet. Next.
Fifth and final question from Super Blue. How do you feel about Deshaun Watson and the alleged sexual assault and inappropriate conduct allegations? This is just for me, and I'm gonna just say I believe women, and fuck Deshaun Watson if he really did all that shit, because apparently it was all about him like trying to get sexual favors from Asian women in like massage parlors and shit. And like,
right.
It's really easy to believe, but also the timing has got the conspiracy theorist in my brain shooting off all kinds of flags. Because John, I'm going to just tell you this so you have context. There was a point at the very beginning of this year, we're talking like January, February, where Deshaun Watson made it explicit and clear that he will not play a snap for the Houston Texans again in his career. He's done with the team. He doesn't like the way that the team's treated him. He doesn't like the general manager that they chose, that they picked, and the head coach that they went out and got without involving him in the process. And for even further context, we're talking about like one of the top 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He's an elite player. He's incredible at what he does. And he's like 24, 25 years old. He's super young. They treat him like shit. The last head coach got GM duties, traded away Watson's best weapon for scraps. He has traded away a lot of shit that would have helped the team. They have basically given Deshaun nothing but shit to work with. And then January, February time this year sometime, comes out and basically makes it clear that he will not play another snap for this team. He demands a trade. And only after that happens do these allegations start coming out.
Wow.
So I believe women, and I really think it would be really shitty for Watson to do what he has allegedly done. The conspiracy theory inside my brain is just screaming like this was fucking coordinated by the Texans organization to smear Watson's character and prevent any other teams from being interested in trading for him. And it's going to come out that he's innocent of everything at the end. And because his brand will have taken such a hit, he will no longer have the leverage to be able to demand a trade anymore. That's what my brain...
Right.
You know what I mean?
All right. Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up. Either way, it's fucked up. So, next set of questions are from Hazardous Something, a.k.a. Gillis. And unfortunately, he kind of gave us some fantasy booking shit. I tried to tell him, like, he offered basically, like, hey, if you want, I can change these to Marvel questions. And I just wasn't able to get back to him in time to get him to. So we've got some fantasy booking here. First question, it's a 4-step thing, obviously. First one, each of us picks 10 wrestlers. I'm just going to go over all 4 of these questions so that you know what we're doing ahead of time, so that you're not caught off guard by anything. First one is, each of us is going to draft 10 wrestlers. We're going to go like back and forth, like it's like a draft almost. Me, then you, then me, then you, back and forth. Until we're up to 20 people. And he said, any company, any gender, whether they're living or dead, whether they're active or retired, it doesn't matter. No matter who you pick, you get them in their prime. And then the second thing is, each of us gets to form a face faction and a heel faction out of those 20 people. We don't have to pick only people that we specifically drafted. The third one is, with a 1-year-long season what would be the ultimate stipulation for faction domination at the season finale? And then the fourth question is, what would you do for a second season?
All right.
So
I just want to stress to everybody before we get into this that we do not do fantasy booking questions. This is not normal, and I don't want to normalize it here.
So, dude, let me ask you this straight up. Do you want to skip over this and give him up to 10 questions for next month as long as it's not fantasy?
I'd honestly rather do that.
Yeah.
If we could explain to him that we don't do like these fantasy booking questions, because that's a lot, dude. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, fucking
Gillis this way we set the precedent that if you ask fantasy booking questions, you'll get your questions back, but we won't answer them.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a precedent I'm comfortable settling rather than breaking the precedent we already had set. Right. So that's fine with me. So sorry, Hazardous. I know you've been watching me and certainly TWitWoW for a long time, because I think Hazardous was even watching me when I was pacifist. Yeah. So nothing against you, bro. We don't do fantasy booking questions, so you can get up to 10 questions. That's wild. 10 questions.
Yeah, because he is a patron. He is a patron, so it would be 5 every.
Yeah, and we do appreciate the patronage. We're not trying to screw you over. It's just these are rules that we've had set for a long time.
And he's a cool guy. I'm sure he'll understand. He even, like I said, said, like in the thing, it's some fantasy stuff. I hope you'll find it interesting and fun. Don't hesitate to tell me if you find it boring, and I'll think of Marvel questions if you prefer. That's like, he's totally understanding. I'm sure he'll be cool with this. I hope that he's able to take advantage of the 10 questions next month.
Yeah, me too. Next
set of questions are from Revel. I know he was in chat earlier. I don't know if he still is. Revel Icon, Revel Status. First question, what are some of your favorite wrestling memes of all time?
Wrestling memes?
My number one favorite wrestling meme is Triple H punching an unsuspecting Kurt Angle in the face.
Yeah. Let me think. You know what? I got an easy one. Adam Cole getting yeeted by Keith Lee.
Yes.
I still see that and I laugh. I thought I was going to be stuck on that one, but no, that's an easy one.
All right. He did say memes. We can name multiple, but if you can think of any, go for it. I'm struggling to think of any more, honestly. Sneaky Edge. Edge with his fucking nose deleted, coming up through the ropes looking like left and right like he's sneaky.
Yeah. Really, just Edge's face in general is one of my favorite wrestling memes of all time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, speaking of faces, Seth Rollins freaking out, celebrating after finding out that he actually retained the title after thinking he lost it. And that doesn't.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. Oh, God, that one. There was one years ago where, like, John Cena, like, jumped in the air after getting a 3 count, or, like, Rey Mysterio got a 3 count, and then the credits rolled. That was great.
Randy Orton doing a fucking split.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of great ones.
John Cena forgetting the cupcakes that he left in the oven.
Yeah.
Speaking of John Cena, are you sure about that? That whole thing, that's great.
Fine speech. That's another.
I feel like that's less of a, like, that's not really something that's really gotten in the mainstream yet.
You know what I wish would have gotten in the mainstream? Is this going to be a forever thing? Like, if that would have gotten in the mainstream.
God, John Cena really is a living meme, isn't he?
The meme Cena is best Cena, for sure.
All right, I think we covered it. Second question, if Mars, wow, I guess you can tell where my brain is. If Mars is colonized in our lifetime, would you want to move there or make occasional trips, as long as flights are hella cheap?
No, it's a very odd question, because I feel like one day we'd all have to, if that was the case. I, of course, would prefer life on Earth because I've grown accustomed to the scenery and this and that. I love where I live in New England personally. So on a very personal level, no. But getting away from the personal and just looking at it more generally, there'd be no point in living there if just the social inequities and just problems with power imbalances and everything else were reproduced on Mars. So just to put it more plainly, if there were still class distinctions on Mars, if there was still structural racism and ableism and this and that on Mars, what's the fucking point? Yeah. It's just, I'm dealing with the same systems of oppression.
It's just survival at that point. It's just like, if we're colonizing Mars, it's because we've made Earth barely habitable, if not uninhabitable. So we're going to have to move out of necessity so that we can fucking live.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If they're just colonizing Mars for the lulz, like for the hell of it, no, we're not going.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfectly said.
Third question, should the WWE go back to the grunge, gritty look of the 90s instead of the current squeaky clean HD era?
That doesn't change anything.
It's such a perfect question from Revel, though, isn't it?
It really fundamentally does not change a goddamn thing. That's like asking, hey, this house has holes in it and everything, and I'm pretty sure it has mice, but what do you think about making it a nice red color? Like, well, I think we should patch up the holes in the mice before we talk about a paint job, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much my energy with this.
All right. Fourth question from Revel. What are some of the best finishers with shit names and vice versa?
Best finishers with shit names, and then worst finishers with cool names.
Yeah. I think a good example of a shit finisher with a good name is the Samoan Spike.
Yeah. So would you group Nigerian Nail with that? Because it's pretty much the same thing.
You know what? The way that that's been sold and put over, I kind of buy it.
Nice. See, that is quintessential pro wrestling right there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I like that. I mean, honestly, given how much it's been buried, you can almost say Sweet Shin Music, because I love the name, but it's literally just a super kick.
Dude, that's a great example of, like, great name, shitty finisher. I don't even remember what name it was, but John Cena's random, like, punch that he did at the tail end of his full-time career when he was, like, working in China and shit. Like, what the fuck?
He really is a living meme, we just got done saying.
He really is. I mean, speaking of, I think the FU is a great example of the actual question, which is like a shitty finisher with a, or no, wait, no, that is the opposite. It's a shitty finisher with a great name. Because let's be real, a fucking Death Valley Driver isn't, and like a botched one too that looks less painful than a real Death Valley Driver is not a good finisher. And it had a great name though, the FU. What's a good finisher with a bad name? It's hard to think of a good finisher with a bad name because, like, I don't know. If it's a good finisher, it's less likely to have a bad name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I feel like all of the best finishers are that way because they also, like, or at least partially because they have good names. Like, you know, the Stone Cold Stunner, the Rock Bottom, like, they all have cool names. The Pedigree, you know, like, the RKO, they have cool sounding names.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm
it's really
trying
difficult.
to think.
It's really difficult to think of a good finisher with a bad name.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't know. That's fucking crazy.
Damn. I'm even trying to
good finish.
And I can't think of any. But Tsunami.
Good finish.
But I wouldn't call that a great finisher either. Oh. I thought of one. I just need to dial it in to remember the actual name of it. I got one.
Okay.
Actually got a really good one. It's Anderson and Gallows when Gallows gets the opponent up in a torture rack and Anderson does the running, like, basically Claymore kick.
Yeah.
Boot of Doom.
There you go. You go.
That's so trash. Which is perfectly antithesis to their other finisher that they still use, Magic Killer. That name's badass. I love that name. Boot of Doom can fuck off. Oh, and hey, since we're sticking with WWE tag team finisher names, pop up into a Samoan drop, the Viking Experience. Go fuck yourself, Vince.
Perfect. Next question.
Fifth and final question from Revel. How would you explain the overall plot of your favorite TV show in wrestling terms?
The overall plot of my favorite TV show.
How the hell?
Jesus.
Let's see. Scrappy. What's a person that doesn't like social situations? An introvert. I had to think.
Introvert, yeah.
Scrappy introvert underdog tries to uproot the corrupt general manager and authority figures while at the same time trying to keep his babyface friends from turning to the dark side or being killed by the dark side.
Yeah, I like that. Fuck. Well, first
also,
I need to know in my
he's fucking schizo and deals with seeing people that aren't really there.
Yeah. Oh God. My favorite TV show.
Dude, while you take care of this, I've got to go take care of something myself. I'll be 30 seconds.
Dude, that's totally fine. First,
it
I'd
gives
have
you
to decide
time to
my
be
favorite
able to
TV.
give a good explanation.
Yeah. You know, I think I'd have to first decide what my favorite TV show of all time is, and I'm torn between two. I mean, there are a lot of TV shows I love, but when I think favorite, there are two I come across. So I think just for the sake of time, I'm going to choose the one that I think would be an easier time to explain in wrestling terms. A tweener that leans more heel tries to become a babyface, but it's incredibly hard, and I think you could argue he doesn't even succeed. And he's surrounded by his friends, who he loses one by one, that also are more or less baby faces, because they don't do the fucked up shit that he does. But, you know, he desperately wants to be a better person and to be a baby face. So a tweener trying to become a baby face, but just having a really, really hard time of it. And he's a tweener because he, you know, likes to drink. He has an addictive personality. He's a shitty celebrity, you know, asshole type. And, yeah, he just wants to be a better person. So, to put it in the plainest wrestling terms, a tweener who is more heelish ultimately tries desperately to turn babyface, but it's a turn he can't quite seem to make no matter how many chances at it he gets. Beautiful. I think I handled that rather well. I really am always afraid of these questions that I feel like could trip me up. So
I don't even know what show you chose, but I'm guessing BoJack.
Yes, that's exactly it, actually. Yeah.
I fucking knew it. Do you know what show I went with?
At first I was thinking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but then, like, seeing people kind of threw me off. So what was that?
Mr. Robot.
Oh, fucking core. I was talking about Mr. Robot with Chris just the other day. It's crazy you picked that one. I love it. Awesome.
Okay, next up, we've got 5 questions from Abel.
Oh, my God.
First one's a doozy. What are your thoughts on critical race theory and it being banned in schools?
Here's the thing, Abel. I'm actually going to answer this somewhat succinctly. I don't even fully know what critical race theory is, and I'm not going to do the whole, Google thing. But here's the thing. Things that I'm ignorant about, before I go and I have any position on them, and certainly before I try removing them from the American education system, I, actually learn what it fucking is. So instead what I'm going to tell you, Abel, is what I think about critical race theory as seen through the lens of conservatism. And it has become an obnoxious term, again, via conservatives, just like postmodern neo-Marxist cancel culture, cultural Marxism. I've hated cultural Marxism for a long time.
That's a Jordan Peterson special right there.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think through the filter of conservatism, I fucking have hated it. I think what it actually is, it's probably incredibly vital and we need more of it. Dude. And I think it's a very dangerous time when PragerU is having an easier time getting into schools than critical race theory. Yeah. And I think we should all be very scared of what's coming. Because I
really hope that it has a Streisand effect and all of the kids finding out that it's banned from their school go and look it up on their own time and learn about it.
Dude, how amazing would it be? Because you know what's funny, man? It's so funny you say that because it makes me think that if we just worked conservatives the right way and if we triggered them the right way and we calibrated the triggers appropriately, we could solve all the world's problems. Like, legitimately, they're like, you want to end gun control, right? So how do you end gun control? You give every black person in America a gun. Because then conservatives would be all for it. That's what people say all the time.
Yep.
And so
Black and Latino. I think conservatives might low-key be more scared of Latinos with guns than black people with guns.
Yeah. And yeah, so now with banning critical race theory, it's like, well, you might have just given us the key to dismantling white supremacy. Because now everybody knows, and I say this knowing that we have conservatives in our audience, and you know what? I stand by it. Everybody knows conservatives deep down are dorks. Nobody wants to be, because conservative isn't cool. It's like, hey, do you want to skate with me and go to this pride parade? No, thanks. I'm reading the latest book by Newt Gingrich. Like, No, you're not cool at all. Like, no. So, yeah. Like, now, you've just made critical race theory cool. It's kind of like that South Park episode where the boys go to that anti-smoking assembly, and they're like, oh, and if you don't smoke, you could be just like us. And then
Rob
the immediate
Reiner.
scene they cut to. What was that?
Rob Reiner.
I think that might have even been a different episode. I don't know if it was the same one or not.
Damn.
It might have been a different one. Because, yeah, the one I'm thinking of, it was like this whole school assembly about, like, yo, if you want to be like us, don't smoke. And in the scene immediately after that, they're, like, going through as many cigarettes as they can.
Yeah.
You're pretty much that with critical race theory. Because now you've been like, hey, you want to be a patriot? Like, Ted Cruz literally tweeted recently a video of him saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Again, this is what I mean by fucking nerds.
Fucking dork,
and he's
right?
like, there was a time that this wasn't controversial. But then again, Ted Cruz,
Dude,
here's the thing.
Imagine, oh my God, imagine thinking that you're making a statement by saying a pledge to your own country aggressively on film.
I know. Oh, it was the same episode, Javaris. Well, then I stand corrected. Yeah, it was that one. The Rob Reiner and the fucking assembly where they're smoking and doing all this. And yeah, you've done that with critical race theory because Ted Cruz, who, by the way, because I know he is more conservative seemingly. I do love Sal. He's the one I do love the most. And he's got coolness to him. But Sal, one day I hope that you and I can have a deep political discussion because, it's bad. Because here's the thing with Ted Cruz, too. He's like the peak dork of the Republican Party because he's also said at like conventions, and you go to California and you tell that skater kid, and he used that exact term, skater kid, about how conservatism and limited government and all this stuff is cool. And it's like, oh my God, Ted, how do your children even like bear to be seen with you? Because I don't even know if he has any teenage kids.
They were raised
I think
by him, so they probably have similar values to him, so they probably actually do see what he's doing as cool.
Oh God! Like I almost feel bad for them, and I do want to emphasize almost because I ain't about to dole out sympathy cookies. But I can just imagine. Yo, do you want to come and have a slumber party? No, thanks. My dad's giving a speech, in Congress. Who's your dad? Ted Cruz. Oh, and they had one less friend that day.
Yeah.
Because no, he is the worst. But no, like these people. Did you guys ever see the two memes that I love on the left, dunking on the right, is when they mock somebody that said, I don't know if it was Steven Crowder or who it was, but they're like, the right's getting better at comedy. And then you look at right comedy and it's just the worst because it's just really lame, basic as shit gender jokes.
An attack helicopter. That's
yes. And then when they're like, but this actually I think is my favorite, even above that one, because that one's fucking hilarious for the reasons that Ashton just said with the joke that he did, because that's
that
peak
and Ben
conservative comedy.
Shapiro's favorite, happy parent of unspecified gender day.
Yeah. That laugh there got me. God damn it. But then the other thing I love is like, conservatism is the new punk rock. These people. I can't do it. My voice is so high, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's so bad.
Wow, what was that? That was new.
that was my evolution.
Damn,
From
it really
cringe.
is a mystery.
It's like when you accelerate a Pokemon's evolution with one of those stones. I got a cringe stone right in my side, and it's like, oh no. And yeah, so circling it back, because I swear to you all, yes, Foster, not only was Steven Crowder on Arthur, but you want a fucking lethal dose of irony? He voiced the Brain on that show, like Brian. I think his name was either Brian the Brain or just the Brain. So he was the stand-in for the intelligent kid that loves science and shit. Like, the fucking irony of it all. Jesus Christ.
He also worked for the Young Turks at one point, I believe.
Did he? Well, he probably did.
You know what? I'm probably thinking of Dave Rubin.
Yeah, oh God, Dave Rubin. Still though, Charlie, you're my guy. My
Charlie,
little Bits mascot. Yeah, Charlie fucking Little Bits mascot Kirk. Oh God, but yeah, to circle it back, because I swear to you guys I didn't lose the thread. Yeah, if you're trying to ban critical race theory, you're probably a nerd, and yeah, I'm laughing at you really hard, really fucking hard. Oh, and by the way, just so I cover all my bases, Candace Owens, if you're also calling for the banning of critical race theory, you're a self-hating nerd, and that's really sad. But you're still a nerd, which is also hilarious. So yeah.
God,
yeah, Javarsi, I got him. I got somebody with that lethal dose of irony.
Imagine,
I know, dude.
Imagine a shift over the course of the next decade or two. The Conservative Party become the actual victims because the left wing just will not stop picking on their nerdiness.
No, there are too many orgies happening. Why? Like, change your goddamn depends and shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. Am I in too much of a mood? I think I'm in too much of a mood.
Dude, you are in a perfect amount of mood. Second question from A. Do you have a view or position that has changed in the last year? Last year or so. And if so, what changed your mind?
Would you actually believe that I've kind of softened up a little bit on my views on violence? If only because, like, now don't get me wrong, I don't like people that, like, don't concede to any situation where revolutionary violence is necessary. So, in other words, I don't like absolutists on one side or the other. Because, and why I feel like I've, oh, well, that's good, Foster, because I'm really not in a mood to be dour or serious. I've had enough of that over the past 72 hours. So, you know, I think why I've softened up on violence is actually more for a utility-based reason than you might think. I'm actually reverting back to a previous form of leftism that I think I had. Because, like, I'll give you an example. Say you have a factory that's abusing its workers. Now, my old stance on revolutionary violence would say, well, you overthrow the fucking factory and you burn it. But here's what's even better, is when you can oust the abuser and then the private property owner, and then you seize the factory. And then you reorient that factory's production, not to focus on profit margins, but on communal goods. See, if you destroy the factory through violence, you lose the means of production. You're not seizing them, you're destroying them. And I think words matter here, because the whole thing is seize the means of production, right? But revolutionary violence, all that could do, if it's not coordinated, and again, I don't like absolutists, so I think there are cases that we should have a serious discussion about where revolutionary violence is necessary. So, to give maybe a rough sketch of where I think it's necessary, say that you have total state control of the means of production, and because of that state control, any kind of resistance, I mean, I hate to always use this because I feel like it's become cliche with how many times it's used. Think Tiananmen Square, right? You try and democratically organize, they leverage violence, because I do subscribe to the anarchist definition of the state, which the anarchist definition of the state has a monopoly on the use of force.
Yeah.
So I think when that monopoly exists, and that monopoly exists in such a way that you can't even get to a transitional social system and economic system. Like, again, I don't know if we exist in that state, because I still think transitioning to a soc damnation, democratic socialism, is possible. But I feel like when such conditions are such that such transitions are impossible, that's when revolutionary violence becomes justified. Because what other way can you move politically? I just don't see it. Now, I think when there is other breathing room where you can petition, where you can raise class consciousness, where you can overtake factories through General Assembly, we'll say, I think that's the more viable path, because you don't want to destroy the means of production. You want that capital. You want that capital for the working class. You want to say to the community, we've taken the bread factory. Again, just as a purely hypothetical example. So now, instead of making bread for my boss, I'm making bread for my community, my neighbors, my children, etc. And I can do that because I didn't throw a grenade at the factory. I raised class consciousness. We did a populist revolt. We ousted the bourgeois. And, you know, what should happen to the bourgeois, I think, is a separate conversation. But yeah, I think that's been my biggest shift, is I've softened a little bit on my views on violence. I still think there are pragmatic cases for it, and that ground I'm not budging on, because I think that's perfectly reasonable. But I do think there is a greater tactical utility to raising class consciousness and relying more on populist leverage and General Assembly, in the sense of taking back and reclaiming the means of production. Right. So what about you, Ashton?
Dude, it's so funny, and I was even laughing early on when you said that you've lightened up when your stance on violence, because I've had almost the exact opposite realization, and maybe I'll bounce back too. But really, it's like, for the longest time, I was always the first person to want to empathize and try and understand why a person feels the way that they do, and try and meet them at their level and try and bring them over to my level, and try to, you know, basically give people the benefit of the doubt. And the last year or so has basically just shown me, like, everybody experiences trauma. Not everybody who experiences trauma becomes a piece of shit for having done it. So, having experienced trauma, I basically used to let be a valid excuse for why somebody's a piece of shit. I try to understand, like, oh, they've been through a lot. We can maybe work through it with them and help them. And I've just completely done a 180 on that. And, like, trauma is awful, but we've all gone through it. And most of us came out on the other side not being a piece of shit. So if you're a piece of shit, just because you think it's because your trauma caused you to do that, that's not a valid excuse to me anymore. Like, to me, unless it's like a situation where a specific type of trauma happens that everybody that experiences it comes out on the other side being a piece of shit, in which case then obviously we need to look into that. But, like, trauma is, in my mind, I have stopped allowing trauma to be a valid excuse for a person just being awful, basically.
Yeah.
Like, to kind of take it a step further, I've also kind of, I used to be very, like, pacifist, anti-violence completely, but I've also come to realize over the course of the last year or so that using violence to stop people who want to inflict violence upon innocents is justifiable. And I would never have said that a year and a half ago, right?
So you're totally now, just to give like a paradigm example that I know became very popular a few years ago because of Richard Spencer, you're totally in the camp of, oh yeah, totally punch Nazis because the violence they do is going to be so much worse than getting punched.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, and another one is like the idea of converting Nazis. I am like, don't waste your fucking energy. They chose their path. Let them have it. If they're interested in, you know, dipping a toe into the water on the other side, let them know, but don't go out of your way to try and convince them when all they're going to be doing the whole time is trying to convince you their way. You're just going to be fucking bashing heads. There's no point. Don't waste your energy on that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, I've basically gotten to the point that I'm just like, okay, I know how I feel. And if somebody else wants to come at me with genuine good faith questions, I'll help them out. I have patience. John, you've seen me talk to people on Twitter that I probably should have just blocked and ignored, but I've got patience to be able to handle that kind of thing. I'm okay with doing it as long as it's good faith. But if it's not, fuck them, ignore them, block them, mute them. They don't deserve my time of day.
Right.
That's kind of been my biggest. It's funny you said you've softened. I've hardened over the last year or so.
That's so interesting, man. Especially on the political front, where you've kind of opened your mind a bit to that kind of revolutionary violence. Because I remember too when I was staunch, and you would show me stuff like successful examples of like pacifist resistance and stuff like that. And again, listen, guys, maybe that's another shift that I've had too, just overall. Any way you do it, just fucking resist. Seriously. Like, if the way you resist is through pacifism, and maybe your pacifism is, I won't pick up a gun, but I'll pick up a pen and I'll write like a fiery essay to maybe raise class consciousness, raise issues, convert people, great. If your idea of resistance really is like, well, I'm going to do the militia training and all that, and, you know, we're going to do whatever, great. But I think the point is, when you're in an unhealthy, tyrannical, just occupation or just illegitimate government, you know, like Palestine is under an occupation. I'm not going to tell Palestinians how they should resist.
Yeah.
Black people are subjugated under white supremacy every day. You think I'm going to get on Twitter and be like, no, those black people, they're just proving the racists right by burning those buildings. Oh, well then, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, like which side are you fucking on? No, burn the fucking buildings.
Yeah.
Like, when you're oppressed, your oppressor doesn't get to tell you what liberation looks like.
Exactly.
It's that fucking simple. Exactly. So whatever means are comfortable for you guys, and that's something that I've learned. Look, I call for revolutionary violence, but you want to know the funny thing, guys? And I'm always real with you. I always keep it 100% with you guys. I hate the gun range by my house. I hate crossing it. I hate the sound of guns. But if there is a group of people, again, I'll use Palestinians as a perfect example, that are like, this occupation has gone on so long. We lose more and more land by the year. We need to do a revolutionary revolt. We need to overthrow the Israeli government, the Israeli installations on our land. Fuck yeah, Palestinians. Fuck yeah, reclaim your lost generations. Reclaim the land that you lost. Maybe broker a deal with Israelis that aren't a part of the government. I don't know. That'll be for them to figure out. But you know what the first thing you figure out is when there's a boot on your neck? How to get the boot off your fucking neck. Everything else comes after.
Exactly.
So, however you can, guys, resist, because I'll be the last one to fucking judge you. And I'd have no right, because we all got to do it the way that we know how. So I'd actually really like these questions. What's the next one?
Third question from Abel is, do you think another global pandemic on the level of COVID will ever happen again? Absolutely yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully not in my lifetime, but I genuinely think the next one won't be a virus. It'll be super bacteria.
I agree with that. I actually agree with everything you said. Everything you said. I really don't even think I have anything to add. And in fact, I would go far and maybe be a bit more cynical and say, given the state of just the environment, like literally like climate change and the environment and stuff like that, and things that we're seeing, the next pandemic may not be as far away as people are probably hoping it will be. Because I know they've been going by the whole like 100-year thing or whatever. But
well, that's the last
I think
time
we
we
were
had something
looking at
that was as devastating as COVID, the Spanish flu that led to the Great Depression and everything.
Yeah,
Wouldn't surprise me.
I think it
we
might
ended up with a depression here in the next decade or so. But I'm more saying.
Oh yeah.
On that level of devastation that COVID and the Spanish flu both had.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm very weary with the state of the world. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another pandemic like this in the next decade. It really just depends. Because at the same time, though, I do see them throwing a lot of money at this.
See another pandemic or epidemic, probably maybe even two, in the next decade. But I don't think they'll be anywhere close to as deadly or destructive as COVID and the Spanish flu.
Yeah, I think ultimately you're right about that. I think you and I are very agreeable on that. All right, next question.
Fourth question from Abel. Polls show that a majority of Americans are worried about inflation. Should we be worried or nah?
Here's the thing. See, you said inflation
you want me to go
specifically,
first?
so maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, I think you would probably have a better answer to this.
Okay. Inflation is inevitable in the system that we have right now. I'm not going to necessarily say that inflation is the direct result of capitalism, but it is the direct result of the type of capitalism that we have, because here's the thing that people don't really look at or think about. If there was no money in the U.S. whatsoever, and we needed the bank to print money for us, say they printed out $1 billion, right? They would send that money then out at interest. So there would be $1 billion worth of loans out, and more than $1 billion worth of money owed back to the bank that printed the $1 billion in the first place that literally just doesn't exist. And that's what causes inflation. Literally, money being printed with interest implied is the cause of inflation. That's why things cost more every year. That's why the price of everything goes up. That's why inflation exists, because banks print money and then loan it out at interest, and you literally can't pay back money that doesn't exist. So it's not, it's not a zero-sum game. It's a negative-sum game for everyone else and a positive-sum game for the banks, in theory, even though it's not actually possible for it to be a positive-sum game for them, because, again, the money doesn't fucking exist. So at the end of the day, that's going to cause inflation. And the thing is, being concerned about inflation's always existed in the U.S. It's gotten worse since the gold standard ended, which I think was in like the late 1900s. But it's still always been around. It's always been a thing because, again, the first dollar that's ever existed was lent out at interest. So, like, even if it's, if there's no money and there's just like fucking cavemen and one of them hands a rock to another one and says, you owe me this plus some, and there are no other rocks you can, obviously in this case, rock's a bad example because rocks are everywhere, but you get the idea. If it's, say, a fucking gold coin and you hand it to a guy and you say, you owe me this and then some, they can't give you and then some because it doesn't fucking exist. And with paper money, it's a different thing completely because, again, paper money is It's like we put our faith in this specific type of paper money that makes it have value in the first place. So, like, should you be worried about inflation? No. Is inflation basically inherently corrupt? Yes. Does that mean that it's going to be the fucking end times? No, because capitalism will find another way to do that anyway.
You answered that perfectly, man. I think me trying to say anything would just dilute what you already said, which is perfect. So I'm good to move on. Was that Abel's last question, or does he have one more?
One more. The fifth and final Abel question is much more lighthearted. What is your proudest Among Us moment?
Oh, I think my proudest Among Us moment, I think it only happened like a few sessions ago when we all met up. It was when we were doing a double imposter game. I lost whoever my partner was, whether it was Javaris or somebody very early on. And I think there were like 9 or so people left. That's right. And I still ended up getting the win for us because I managed to kill like everybody like by myself. I really didn't think I could pull it off, especially because a lot of the time, guys, and you've played with me enough to know, it's very easy to sniff me out as imposter, and I don't really put up much of a fight because I'm like, well, kind of caught me red-handed. So yeah, I was very proud of that one. What about you, Ashton?
I have two that I can't really decide between. So, and these are both older, like I would say at least a couple months old. So one of them was one of the very first 2 imposter games that we ever did. It was on Mira, and it was a team where I was with Shay, and Shay was still relatively new to the game, so he didn't really know the nuances. He didn't really know, like, what are some things that are frowned upon, what are some things that you can do to get easy, that are easy to get caught. And, like, he was just kind of overall new. And basically what happened was the first meeting, the way that it was set up made it extremely obvious that Shay was an imposter because he basically placed himself at the scene. No one else was around, and like he knew something that you couldn't have possibly known unless you did the killing. So I kind of threw him under the bus because I knew he was getting voted off anyway. I voted him off along with the rest of the crew, and then I proceeded to pick everyone else off, you know, like a 1v7 and win the game. And that was really cool. And then there was another one, and I think it was just a single imposter game, and it was just me. But it came down to me and 4 people, I think. And I was able to use the lights being out to snipe one person in a group of 3. And basically it was like you, I think it was like you, Craig, and Mark or something like that, walking from the reactor to the lights to try and fix the lights. And I managed to snipe Mark because he fell a little bit behind the rest of the pack as the lights were out. And there was just enough time in between me killing Mark and my kill cooldown running out that I was also able to get one more kill to win the game. And it was just like, it was so good. It was really, really cool game. So those are my 2 sort of most cherished memories personally. All right. Questions. DBK actually asked 5. First up, if WWE sells, who's going to buy the company? I'm going to say Disney. Personally,
Disney, dude, was my first fucking thought, man.
Yeah.
Oh right. My god,
that's easy. Yeah, that's hilarious. All right, second question already from DBK. Then, who do you think Moxley should lose the U.S. title to? Nobody. Joe, I think we have the same answer for this too.
I don't think we do, man, because I'm honestly drawing a blank. Who did you think of?
Juice.
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, please get Juice back in singles. I hate that it... And is he a heel now in this fucking tag team? I hate everything they're doing, Juice, right now. Jesus Christ. Yeah. And his matches with Moxley kick ass, too. Yeah. So, yeah, Juice is the perfect answer.
Did you hear my mom?
What'd she say?
I could handle that.
Sure he can.
Wait, no, she said I can handle that, meaning like she...
Oh, she can handle that. Yeah, yeah. I would hope so. Juice is he's a good-looking man. All right, next question.
The other option that I was thinking, if Aleister Black doesn't stick around in WWE and get re-signed or whatever, he would be a great option to beat Moxley as well. Third question from DBK, though. Are you going to start reacting to another company than any of the ones you already react to? Probably not.
I think TWitWoW always keeps that option open, but right now I think we're very comfortable in our regiment.
Yeah,
like and if anything...
The company that we'd be most likely to react to right now is a company that we've already tried and decided not to, and that's TJPW.
Yeah. So again...
That's like constantly on the border of TWitWoW's vision. Like it's always on the fringe, like in our periphery. Like we always kind of keep half of an eye on TJPW and just like, because I know that they've got a big match coming up this weekend that I really want to watch. Miyu defending the Princess Apprentice title against Saki-sama. I'm stoked for that. But it's like, it's really kind of inconvenient to react to all these Japanese companies just because of the timing. But at the end of the day, I think we're pretty happy where we are right now. I would say just because like we've already kind of given TJPW a try and decided against it afterwards, that's almost a definite no. And the next most likely company for us to react to is like maybe CMLL, but that seems unlikely too. I don't know. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to CMLL, but that seems unlikely. Again, I think we just have a really good roster of shows right now.
And
I mean,
honestly,
hell, if anything...
like, I'd love to know what you were just about to say, because I feel like we were just about to express the exact same sentiment.
I hope so, because I was about to say, if anything, with how we feel about WWE, if anything, we would trim the fat some more, not like
dude,
add on to it.
I was literally about to say, I would be happier to drop shows than pick up more. Literally the exact same thought.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I have been for some time now, for sure.
Yeah.
Next question.
Oh man, we really are on the same page. This is just for you, John. DBK wants to know what you think your most underrated moment in your live reactions have been.
Underrated moment. Oh, you know what? I wish I even knew what segment this was. And I wish I knew who was involved in it, but I think it was somebody I liked, and they were probably torturing Zack Ryder. I don't know why I feel like he was a part of it, but it was when I went, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, like really fast, like saying fuck you over and over again. And then when it got done, like whatever happened to the babyface, or maybe the heel I don't like, or whatever the moment was, when it completed itself, I was like, yeah! Like, I love when I get so high energy just in those short bursts, and like something happens that I'm waiting to happen. Like I'm telling you guys, maybe my best moment has yet to happen, depending on how Money in the Bank goes, July 18th. Because with Morrison in that match, I really have a reason to give a shit beyond just enjoying the pay-per-view concept itself. Because when he's on top of that ladder, if he kicks somebody off, it's going to be that same energy. No, fuck you, yeah! And like, you know, I think is always my more underrated stuff. But then again, you know, maybe somebody would say my underrated stuff is my more like quiet moments, where maybe I even just make a genuinely great call, and I'm not like over the top and like really animated because I'm like so into it. Maybe it's like with Shuri and Utami recently, where I'm just really fucking vibing with it. And I'm just like, you know, what the fuck are we witnessing? What a great match. Because I think everybody's always going to know me as like the loud, like the you fail. Like we still get requests for fail bombs. And it's a way it's kind of sad because like I'm more known with like being loud and explosive, which I enjoy when I'm really into something. But I think what's genuinely underrated, if our chat has anything to go by, are the quieter moments where maybe I just get a quip on somebody that has Ashton dying. Right, like I say something and it just takes him out because it's like I didn't expect you to say that or whatever, and I don't even say it aggressively. I'm like, so how's it feel to suck? And like it'll just hit Ashton in such a way, like I'll say something to that effect, and I'll be like, God damn it! Like I always love those moments too, so I think that's very underrated.
I would
just
have
say
an
in
answer
general, like,
for you.
Sure.
Marty Scurll winning the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship from Will Ospreay at Power Struggle 17.
That was a great one because I just did not expect that. Yeah. I just did not expect that at all.
Yep. That I think is my personal most underrated John reaction. So.
Yeah. Foster, you know what? It is a review and not a reaction, but I'll still give it to you because I love that. The first time I ever said that, I think might have been the first night I went to bed and I didn't fall asleep right away. And the thought kind of galloped over my mind like a sheep. Do I need help? And like, it was yeah, but it was a very faded, distant yeah. So I didn't hear it until like a few years later. Because who says that? God, I'm broken inside. All right, next question.
Fifth and final question from DBK. For me, actually, this is just for me. How would you book the IWGP Heavyweight Championship situation when Ospreay was injured? I mean, I would have just put it on Tanahashi, just because, like, old reliable, let Okada stay off, let him recover. I would have had Tanahashi beat Evil, I think, actually, rather than Shingo or Okada. That way you preserve those two. Shingo could have been an early contender. Maybe they go to like some kind of a draw, time limit or outside the ring or something along those lines, just to keep Shingo legit. maybe Tanahashi beats him with like the tights or something. I would want to build to a Tanahashi Okada Dominion match, I think, or at least some big match between them, just because we know that like once Okada gets back to full, he's gonna want that shit. Tanahashi Ibushi is always a great match. I think Tanahashi was the right choice to put the title on. I just think that they didn't want to because of his age. Or you could have done Suzuki, and that could have been just the fucking king. But again, I feel like Suzuki, if he would have gotten the title, it wouldn't have been for very long. So that's why I'm thinking more Tanahashi. Suzuki Tanahashi would have been a great match too. I wish they would have done like a mini tournament. You could have done like 2 blocks of 6 and do like a little mini G1 leading up to Dominion to kind of build to the championship match. And I would have had it be probably like Tanahashi Suzuki, just because then John and I would have been so fucking invested, we would have actually reacted to the show. And I think really at that point it's a toss-up, because Tanahashi I think is the more reliable, like go-to. You know he's going to bring in huge crowds. He's still like one of the top 2 or 3 draws in the company. I think Naito would have been a viable option as well, but it seems like he's been dealing with other kinds of stuff like injuries and stuff too. So I really do think it was just the right time to put the title back on Tanahashi, and they didn't. So whatever. Next set of questions are from Just Alex. Are you ready for this, John?
Let's do it.
First question. What are your thoughts on China, and what could we learn from her life? From her hard life, he actually said.
Oh, right, because this was the Vice documentary. I want to apologize to Just Alex, because we even talked about it, and he told me, like, I hope you did watch the China documentary, because it was a Q&A question. And I meant to. Dude, I've had so much happen this week.
John?
So I do apologize,
I have got us covered. I specifically went to him in a DM, and I told him that neither one of us watched it, and he changed his questions because of it.
Okay, cool. So what are we... So I guess is he just asking about his thoughts on China in general, then?
Yes.
I think she was a trailblazer. I was a fan of China. Like, one of the very
Have you ever seen any of her work in Japan?
Not in Japan, no.
Did you know that she worked in Japan?
I didn't even know that she worked in Japan, but that sounds fascinating.
Guys in Japan. She was awesome.
Yeah, dude, I think it's pretty safe to say, and I know this kind of adage gets thrown around maybe a bit too much, but I really do think it's safe to say that China was ahead of her time.
Yeah.
Like, when you look at the stuff that she was able to do.
100%.
And like, here's the thing, because I saw this whole discourse going on, and it's a bit of a muddy discourse, about the documentary. Like, did China screw China, essentially, or was she screwed by other people? And I think it's always going to be a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Like Ashton said quite beautifully a few questions ago, everybody has shit happen to them, but I think only you can decide, okay, well, what can I do? What is within my own power? Even if it's only one thing, what is within my own power to make better? And will I choose to make it better? So yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of accountability to go on with China too. And I'm not trying to take away her responsibility and whatever happened to her. But, it's just a fucking shame how shitty the WWE is. I mean, guys, the sad thing is, and I can talk about this because this was also a Vice documentary that I actually watched, WWE historically treats people like shit. I know there are always going to be the stories where it's like, oh, they helped me get in rehab or this and that. But you know what I think about that? And maybe I'm just maybe a bit too hard. I don't know. Maybe it's a John issue. But I'm like, well, if they didn't have the culture that they did, and if you had a union, maybe you wouldn't have had to take so many bumps that required you to take pain pills, which then required you rehab
in the first place. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's more like you're putting a Band-Aid on a seeping wound that you yourself caused. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And I know this is out of context, and I do mention this for a reason.
That's how you know it's an abusive relationship. It's like when a guy fucking punches a woman in the face and then takes really good care of her and like holds the ice pack and makes sure that she heals up. But it's like, dude, you're the one that did that in the first place. Fuck you.
Yeah, you guys are asking me personally this question at the perfect time. Because I only mention this because I know it's outside the scope of China, but I promise to get it back in the scope. Like, one of the most sickening things from the Benoit Vice documentary from Dark Side of the Ring that you guys know, like, I fucking cried watching. It didn't even have anything to do with Chris. I felt the worst for Nancy's sister Sandra, because she openly said, like, WWE did not contact us and they did not give us any money after Chris died, and he did what he did. Like, now, to not give them any financial support, to not give them anything, I thought was the shittiest fucking thing. And that's the same thing. Like, is there a lot China could do by herself? I'm sure there is. I'm absolutely sure there is. But much like when we talk about climate change or any other socio-political issue, is there a lot more you can do when a corporation is on your side or taking accountability? Yeah, I fucking think so. Like, I think her,
dude,
her resources would have been significantly more, you know? But what were you going to say?
I was talking about earlier, like, almost everyone experiences trauma, and almost all of those people who experience trauma don't come out the other side being pieces of shit. Well, in this case,
Right.
almost the opposite. Not very many people deal with really bad addiction, but of the people that do, almost none of them are able to overcome that addiction without help.
Exactly.
So us trying to sit here and be like, oh, she had to be more responsible for herself is extremely, I think, insensitive, tunnel vision, nearsighted. We're not looking at the big picture. We're not looking at how difficult it is to overcome addiction. Like, addiction is a very real thing, and people who deal with chronic addiction are not inflicting that status upon the world. It's been inflicted upon them, and they need help. They need to, that's like, we know that people who have good support systems are more likely to be able to overcome addiction than people who don't. WWE failed to provide that for her.
No, they didn't provide that for her. And the thing is, too, and I can speak to this, guys, because my dad's still an addict. My mom, fortunately, has been clean for several years. And now I don't get along well with my dad at all, and that's an understatement, but I don't want to get into that because this is a completely separate time and a completely separate event. But I will say, like, even the quote-unquote support that we offer, like NA and NA, I've always said that I hope the culture shifts where the norm for support are things like harm reduction centers and shit like that.
Yep.
And, like, WWE could have offered something like that with their wealth and resources. They might not have been able to make something like that a part of the culture, but they didn't need to make it a part of the culture. They just needed to make it a part of their culture. And they didn't. And she got fucked, and I think a lot of other people got fucked. So I think Ashton's absolutely right. Like, yeah, I'm sure if you squint really hard, you can always talk about personal responsibility. Sure, I'm not about to say that, like, take away people's moral agency and whatnot. But again, addiction is a disease. I'm fully a part of that discourse, that addiction is 100% a disease. I think our culture of criminalizing disease and even treating disease of like, okay, well, you just need to relinquish the disease to a higher power. So it's like, oh, so you're doing that prayer, like faith healing shit. Like, so that's essentially what you're doing
one addiction for another.
Exactly. It's like, no, harm reduction, sociability. I've always found fascinating. And again, I know this is kind of veering away from China, but it's like, I always found the studies fascinating where, like, when Vietnam vets came home from war, or just soldiers coming home from war in general, it doesn't have to be Vietnam, and they got hooked on drugs, while at war, but they were very easy to stop when they got home. It's because of the sense of community. They actually took two separate groups of mice. One mouse in a solitary cage with water laced with heroin, and then another just like group of mice, but it was more of a community. It must have been like 10, 12 mice with, again, the same bottle laced with heroin. The community of mice went to the bottle far less often than the solitary mouse. Because the solitary mouse, I think, was just like kind of going out of their own mind. And you figure, like, when you have the stigma that China did, being a sex worker, and WWE kind of doing their hit job on her, that had to be very alienating for her. Because that's a business that she gave so much to and she did so much for. And now they've kind of like self-imposed this isolation on her. Is it any fucking wonder? Like, I actually don't think we've explored, because I do agree with you again 100% that addiction is a disease. But I think on top of that, I don't think we've explored the social component enough of addiction. And I think how a lot of it just comes, like, I'd honestly be curious, and I wonder if a study's ever going to be done, how many people became drug addicts to cope with COVID and social distancing. Because it had to really fuck people up not to be able to interact with people.
To be social.
So I'd be to be social, because we're inherently social animals.
Yep.
So yeah, those are my thoughts on China. And as far as her legacy, she was a fucking trailblazer. And again, one of my earliest VHS tapes was Armageddon, 1999, I think it was. That was the first time I ever saw nudity, too, by the way. Thank you. Man, wrestling really was a formative part of my life. And it was China versus Jericho for the Intercontinental title. Genuinely fun match. Great psychology in it. Good shit. So, yeah.
All right, second question from Alex. What are your thoughts on Super Nikki, and could she possibly get it over?
Okay, so in isolation, without any context, I obviously think it's cringe. But can she get it over? I think anything in wrestling can get over if you just, if you present it the right way, And again, I know there are always going to be people to shit on something just to shit on it. But, I think if they have a compelling enough story, because if you're going to do a superhero gimmick, well, what does a superhero need? A supervillain. Now, is that going to be Alexa, and they're going to reignite the Nikki Alexa feud? But it's different this time because I'm no longer
They just teamed up on Monday.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to try some, Superman, Lex Luthor shit, or maybe Batman Joker would be more appropriate. But if they write it well, which I haven't liked Alexa since day one of her doing this gimmick, so I doubt it. But if they write it well, it could get over. But for me personally, it just doesn't seem to be for me, and that's okay. But it's just not. All right.
Anything can get over. There's no reason this can't.
Exactly.
And WWE seems much more willing to put their women's titles on sort of gimmicks like this than they would be to put the world title on. So I think he has got one hell of a bigger chance at winning, Raw Women's Gold or SmackDown Women's Gold if she gets drafted than Hurricane ever had at winning the world title. And didn't he even have like a fake world title win or something like that?
No, you might be thinking of when he beat The Rock, because that was the biggest thing he did.
He beat The Rock, so that's I could see Nikki getting that kind of thing. So
yeah.
Third question from Just Alex: if Vince was to sell WWE to TWitWoW, what are the first 3 things that you would change about the product as a whole?
Get every fucking predator out of our locker room. That's one.
Really the product, that's more backstage, but I do agree with you on that.
Yeah. Because he did ask about the product. Well, I mean, in a way, that does affect the product, because it's like, you're not going to see this person on TV anymore because. But no, I think I would shrink the writing staff. I think I would make it more minimalist and intimate, because I feel like the less writers you have, the less cooks in the kitchen. I'm really just going by that mindset. So for me, I would shrink the writing team to make it more cohesive and coherent. I would set Raw back to 2 hours, because I think WWE is way oversaturated television.
I don't think that's even an option. I think USA Network wouldn't allow that.
Well, if we couldn't do that, then I would readjust commercials then. I could do that, couldn't I? I could be like, hey, I want to go with a Lucha Underground format. I want to do commercials before matches, and we could do commercials after matches, but we do matches commercial free. Yeah. That would be something I would change. So shrink the writers' room, commercial free matches, and all those that's another big one, just because it has a special connection to me in my childhood. All those commentary restrictions, you have to say, title, you can't say belt. I would burn it, and I would be like, hey,
local medical facility.
Yeah, local medical facility. I said, fuck all these rules. I don't even know why they were in place. Be people. Talk like people. Talk like you're watching wrestling. So, writers, commercial structure, commentary. You?
All right. So I don't know if I would necessarily need to, I think we would end up achieving similar results as far as having fewer writers, but my goal wouldn't be, I want fewer writers. My goal would be, I want only the good writers. You know what I mean? I would go out of my way to have conversations with the writers and find out what their ideas are and find out who inspires them. And I would want to really get inside the minds of these writers to find out if I want them working for me or not. But I think that the general consensus between us is you need to have a better writing environment, a better writing culture, I almost want to say. But I would kind of take it a step further, because I would want to implement storyboards. I would want to have timelines. I would want the writers that I would keep to kind of go back and track a wrestler from the beginning of their career and kind of learn what that wrestler's done throughout their career, have conversations with the performer that kind of goes through their entire character arc and just kind of figure out I would really want it to be interactive. I would want the writers and the wrestlers to work hand in hand with the writing of the show, because I would want the wrestlers to have input, but I don't need professional wrestlers to be focusing on writing scripts. I need them to be focusing on wrestling and playing their character, but they don't need to be writing out exact scripts. They need to be able to bounce off back and forth with somebody whose job it is to write those scripts and to write those promos. And obviously I wouldn't need the wrestler to recite it word for word either, because I've literally seen plenty of promos where people have looked like they were reading, reciting lines that they just memorized 2 hours ago. So I really don't need that either. So I think that the main changes that I would make are to add more interactive storytelling devices backstage between the writing team and the wrestlers, have them work in conjunction. I would want to even like assign a writer or a small group of writers to specific storylines so that they can get as intimate with those characters and those storylines as possible. And so that if you're like, okay, where does this go next? They aren't sitting there, you know, twiddling their thumbs for 20 minutes. They know immediately, like, oh, the next logical conclusion for this storyline is to do this. I would want that kind of like workflow. I would want that kind of cohesion, that kind of synergy in the writing team. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I need to cut a bunch of people either. Like I could, if there are like really ignorant pieces of shit in the writing room, they're obviously gone. But I wouldn't count that as like a primary step that I'd be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So the second thing that I would want to do, that was all step one. Step two is to kind of take what they're already doing, but turn the volume up. Because I've noticed they already kind of do what we wanted them to do, in the sense that SmackDown feels more sports oriented, Raw feels more fantastic and character based, right? Raw has got the Alexa Bliss shit and Super Nikki and like whatever. SmackDown feels more sports oriented, and that's cool. I would want to take those two and just crank the volume up to 11. I want SmackDown to feel more sports oriented. I think SmackDown is closer to what I would want it to be than Raw is to what I would want it to be. So I would say SmackDown is already at like a 9 out of 10 and I need it at an 11. Raw's at like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 and I need it at an 11. You know what I mean? So
right, exactly.
I would want SmackDown. I don't need to focus on winning records because that's already like AEW's doing it, and I think it's fucking lame as hell anyway. So I don't need to worry about win-loss records. I think that's kind of lame. It's been tried. Evolve did it better than anyone's ever done it before, and it still didn't fucking work. So I just think that win-loss records in wrestling are just not a good idea. I don't think AEW uses it well. I just don't think it's a thing that wrestling can do well, because you're basically forcing yourself to write yourself into corners that force your hand and make you do things, or else fans start asking questions. And the last thing that we need is for fans to start booking our product for us, because that's when it's like they're not immersed in it anymore. And that's what we do with Raw and WWE all the time, because their writing is shit because of Vince. So first thing is improve the writing team's synergy with the wrestlers. Make sure that they know their history. Make sure that they have storyboards. Make sure that they are telling stories in more complete fashion, and that we are following logical steps in character progression. Step two would be to crank the volume up on the sports-like presentation on SmackDown, and to make Raw feel like a TV show. Make Raw feel like Game of Thrones. Make Raw feel like Mr. Robot. Make Raw feel like Breaking Bad. Give Raw cinematic matches every single week. Raw should only have 2 or 3 in-ring matches a week. Everything else should be cinematic. Raw should be taking the road that Lucha Underground paved for them and casually strolling down it, taking advantage of the fact that Lucha Underground already laid out the fucking blueprint for how to do this shit, and maybe even taking it a step or two further. That's what I want for Raw. So, third step, I think, would be along the lines of what you said about commentary. I would, again, want to really kind of align the commentary to fit the shows. So, like, for SmackDown, I would want either the new Raw guy, if I couldn't get Morrow, or Morrow. I would want Morrow for sure. He'd be the number one option. And McAfee. Morrow and McAfee. Are you kidding me? Tell me there's a more perfect wrestling commentary duo than Mauro Ranallo and Pat McAfee, John. I dare you.
That would be fucking excellent.
It really would be. And then Raw, you can have Cole, and you can have Saxton and Graves. Right there. There's your Raw team. It makes all the sense in the world. And I think kind of like what you said about, like, be people, but we've...
Dude, thank you. Thank you, because I've been saying that about Cole for years. Like, I really don't think he's the problem. Because I think he was meant to always be a play-by-play guy. He was not meant to be a, let's plug this sponsor guy, let's do this thing kind of guy. He wasn't meant to be, like, Vince's kind of extension. Yeah. He was just meant to be his own play-by-play. Because him and Taz, when he was able to do play-by-play, that was fantastic. I genuinely believe, I don't give Cole and Taz enough credit. I feel like there were a lot of episodes of SmackDown, they gave JR and King a run for their money. And Cole just got fucking neutered the moment Vince had more control in the headset. I hate it. Yeah. I hate it so much.
Yep. And then the only other real change that I would make, and I guess you could kind of lump the commentary thing in with making shows feel more sports oriented for SmackDown and character oriented and fantastical for Raw. I would really want to get a roster rotation going because I think people just get really sick of seeing the same characters every single week. I would really only want the world champion to wrestle on pay-per-views, and ideally, not even every pay-per-view. I would want some pay-per-views to be main evented by an intercontinental champion or a women's champion or even a tag team champion in some instances. I would say the big four would always be main evented by the world champions. Maybe you could even have like Universal Champion main event SummerSlam and WrestleMania, WWE Champion main event Survivor Series, and say Money in the Bank, because we're not going to have him main event Royal Rumble. You get the idea. But like,
yeah,
you could even just do world, WWE Champion main event SummerSlam, Universal Champion main event WrestleMania. Everything else is up in the air, but they will wrestle on every other or maybe every 3 pay-per-views. Or maybe you could do like some pay-per-views go by and no world title is defended, but every other title is defended, and the main event is a women's championship match. Some will go by where the WWE title is defended on the card, but it's not as important as, say, the Intercontinental Championship match on that show, so the Intercontinental Championship would main event over the WWE title on that show. And, like, I would really want to get a good roster rotation going to the point that it really doesn't feel weird to not have somebody on every single show or to not have a champion on every single show or whatever. I would really want to make sure that we kind of retrained the audience to not expect to see every wrestler on every show. I would want to retrain the audience to be like, okay, well, it's nice to see this person. I'll see you again in 3 or 4 weeks, or 2 or 3 weeks even. And like maybe the following week, like we get, the Intercontinental Champion shows up. I would say that would be kind of the one thing that I would have. I would have the Intercontinental and the U.S. Champion. Basically, the mid-card champions would show up almost every week. And whoever they were working with would show up on most weeks as well. Because I would kind of, and I think maybe women's and tag champs as well. Because I would want the world champions to feel like pay-per-view champions. And I would want the lower card champions to feel like TV champions, if that makes any sense. So
absolutely, yeah.
That's kind of the structure that I would want to kind of go with. Obviously, there wouldn't be any hard and fast rules, I don't think. Maybe I would come up with some over time. But right now, my 3 steps: number 1, synergy between the writing team and the wrestlers. Number 2, SmackDown as sports-oriented, Raw as a creative, fantasy, kind of character-driven show. Commentary working those styles on either show, with Morrow and McAfee on SmackDown and Colt, Saxton, and Graves on Raw. And then the third big one is the roster rotation and making your champions feel more important by depriving the audience of them on lower level shows. There you go.
All right, next question.
Next question is from Mark, and we did get 5 from Mark. First up, who would you have change brands in the next draft? Number 1 pick for me, Drew McIntyre to SmackDown.
I would agree with that. Drew to SmackDown sounds really good. I would say, and I've actually heard that this might happen, I would say instead of Big E to Raw, I don't like that. I would say the New Day back to SmackDown. Because I want Big E and Roman to collide. I'm far more interested in Big E versus Roman than Big E versus Lashley or whoever that's going to be. Which, the only reason I believe that Big E's going to be on Raw is because Lashley has been really involved with the New Day lately. He just beat Xavier Woods in a Hell in a Cell on Monday, and he's facing Kofi at Money in the Bank. So something tells me he's going to be fucking with the Usos for a while, or excuse me, the New Day for a while.
Yeah.
But I'd rather they just all be on SmackDown because the prospect of Roman versus Big E is so intriguing to me. God, I just want to put everybody on SmackDown, honestly, because I love
even our chat is like Keith Lee to SmackDown, Ali to SmackDown. Everyone wants. I would say here's a name that I would want to move from SmackDown to Raw: Bayley. She's done everything she could possibly do on SmackDown. Let her interact with Asuka.
I agree. I actually think that's a great choice. It's funny you mentioned Asuka though, because I wouldn't even mind Asuka getting drafted to SmackDown because she feels kind of stale right now on Raw too. But yeah, I think Bayley to Raw is an excellent choice. Let's see, who else can we name here? I would already reunite the New Day because I think that was such a horrendous mistake because you should be able to do your own thing. Kofi Mania showed that they can remain brothers and remain a tag team one guy does major single shit. I swear, WWE is just so insufferable sometimes. Honestly, when he heals, Damian Priest to SmackDown. I think he'd be an interesting fit there. I don't know how much farther he can go on Raw. I'd prefer Jomo on SmackDown too, honestly, and it's not just because then I could really see him every week.
That would make a lot of sense. He would just, that would be a really good organic way to split him and Miz up, I think.
Yeah, because Miz is perfect where he is, because Raw really, I think they do want to make Raw the more character-driven show.
They might keep Morrison on Raw and move Miz to SmackDown, because Miz gets drafted every single time there's a draft.
He does, man. He does. You're not even wrong. Shit. Yeah, how many more should we come up with? Or do you feel like we came up with a good number?
I feel like we need to come up with at least one or two more people to go from Raw to SmackDown, because we have all these ideas, or from SmackDown to Raw, I mean, because we have all these ideas that people go Raw to SmackDown, and we don't have enough people to go from SmackDown to Raw.
You know what? Rude and Ziggler to Raw.
You're just using Raw like a fucking wasteland. Just dumping off the pieces you don't want.
Hey, you didn't say, and don't use them like a wasteland. You just said draft picks.
Damn.
So...
Oh, yeah, you really got the old... Mark said Corbin. That's great. That's
perfect.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind Nakamura on
Corbin.
Raw, so let's keep Corbin on SmackDown and move Nakamura to Raw.
You really think Nakamura could do well on Raw? Interesting.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think him and Lashley could do good stuff together if they'd give Nakamura the opportunity.
I mean, if they would build Nakamura as legitimate, absolutely.
Trying to think. I'm trying to think of at least one serious answer, because I am sticking by Ziggler and Rude, because I do genuinely believe that. I think, they're Rudolph, they're stale on SmackDown, it's whatever. Honestly, if he was babyface, I'd almost want to see Otis on Raw, because I almost feel like as a babyface, Otis could actually climb a lot higher on Raw than on SmackDown. I feel like that's why they had to turn him heel. Because I think SmackDown, they really do want to be more of the work rate show. But Otis is such a larger-than-life personality. I'm saying this strictly if he was a babyface, which who knows? By the time the draft comes around, maybe something happens between him and Chad. We don't know. I think Otis on Raw could be fucking acceptable. There's my serious answer for you, Ashton. Otis to Raw. And you know what?
I've been giving nothing but serious answers. Here's my wasteland pick. Send the Mysterios back to Raw. Fuck them.
Yeah, there you go. All right, next question.
Next question from Mark. Who are your ideal candidates to win Money in the Bank briefcases?
I mean, Mark, just one man's opinion, but, Jomo's been looking kind of great. You saw me beat Randy Orton to qualify. But no, ideal, even though I'm going to be rooting for Jomo and fuck everybody else, ideal, I think, would be... I feel like Money in the Bank always works better with heels, and if you're going to put it on a baby face, it should always be where they would cash in a clean way that you'd get excited about. Like RVD doing it at Extreme Rules drove up interest for Extreme Rules because RVD was never WWE champion. Yeah. And it's like, it could have it on his home turf. Like that's the perfect babyface cash in to me in that way. Or if you're going to do it the cheaty way, make it on a heel that people love to see lose. That's why I thought CM Punk's first cash in was really good. But I think it's a lot easier to get heel cash-ins right than babyface cash-ins right. So because of that, I think it's always easier to go on the heel, although more interesting when you do it on the baby faces. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do for you, Mark. When I think about ideals, I'll give you one ideal baby face in my mind, and then one ideal heel. Ideal baby face, I still think it's Cesaro, because I am enjoying his struggle right now, and I do think him having it. I just imagine him coming out to Roman and saying, I want to do it one more time, and I'm letting you know it's going to happen at insert pay-per-view here. Ideal heel...
Can I?
Well, when your voice got that high, you bet your ass you fucking can. What are you thinking about?
Sami Zayn to win Money in the Bank, man.
Yes! 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 Fuck, whatever I was going to say, that is the correct answer. Did you see my tweet about that, actually?
What?
Did you see my tweet about that, actually?
No, I didn't.
Oh, dude, it is so perfect you said Sammy, because I don't even think I tweeted it that long ago, so I'm not going to take 5 hours, I promise. I'm on my profile now. Let me load up what I said. I said, and if I can't really find it quickly enough, I'll just tweet it out. There we go. I said, with Sami Zayn's character shifting ever so slightly, talking about karmic justice, because he's not talking about the conspiracy as much. He's mentioning karmic justice happening for him. I said, you cannot tell me that if he won Money in the Bank, those promos wouldn't be goddamn amazing.
Dude,
I'm honestly at the point where
I get like a fucking Styles Otis moment with Owens and Zayn, where Owens has the briefcase in his hand and he drops it and Zayn catches it.
Dude, I would love that, and it breaks my heart that it's probably not going to happen, only because, I don't know if you saw Owens on Twitter, he implied that he was taking time off. So I don't know when Kevin's coming back.
Well, dude, I wonder if it's a dislocated shoulder like we thought.
Yeah, I have not seen any updates on the dirt sheets about any kind of injury to KO or whatever. So I'm really curious. And yeah, Sammy winning it would be so fucking perfect. I mean, guys, listen. I know we all have people we like. I'm going to be rooting for Jomo. God, if Keith Lee was able to get in, which we know he's not going to because he's a Raw guy and he's not even in a qualifying match, which really fucking sucks. Yeah. But if Keith Lee was in it, Javaris would be Keith Lee. But I think so many of us could agree that Sami Zayn has high entertainment fucking value with that briefcase. Oh my God. And then you don't really lose either way, because if he fails the cash in, he could go right back to the conspiracy stick and have more having more ammunition than he would know what to do with. Yep. And then if he won the fucking title, oh my God, if he won the fucking title, the promos, you don't lose. You don't lose with Sammy in the briefcase. You could do literally whatever you want with him. And because his character is so goddamn untouchable right now, he'd make it work either way. In fact, even just that very logic of everything I just said, if Sammy qualifies, dude, previewing predictions is going to be very interesting, because I wonder how willing you'd be and how willing I'd be to pick him as the winner. Because he really is in such a great spot right now. Yep. I don't know,
and
dude.
Really, the fact that he's had that character shift to go from the conspiracy stuff to the karmic justice almost feels like they're prepping him for a Money in the Bank win, doesn't it?
Dude, oh my fucking God. Is it happening?
I don't know.
Oh my fucking God.
I wonder if that website that I frequent with Vegas odds has any info on Money in the Bank yet.
That would be, yeah. If you do, share them with us, because I'd be curious where Sammy sits right now.
Yeah. Let's see. Money in the Bank. Oh yeah, we never even talked about the women's match. The women's Money in the Bank.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God, I feel so terrible. Honestly, I'd love to see Naomi with the briefcase just to see her trick it out with that glow effect. And I think she'd be a fun babyface winner. Liv Morgan, definitely. I think that could be a lot of fun. Liv Morgan, Naomi. I'm trying to think of a good heel woman that I'd like to see with it, because fuck Alexa Bliss.
It's rough. That feels like WWE's women's evolution was born in NXT, found a way to sprout in the main roster, died in the main roster, and is only still alive through NXT.
Honestly, first of all, you're right. Honestly, I hate to say this. Well, I hate to say one of the answers, but not the other. One of the obvious heel answers would be Sasha, and then you get Sasha Bianca. You kind of build Sasha Bianca 2 properly at SummerSlam. Or, and I'm only saying this because of the story, if WWE would actually fucking know what they want to do with her, Sonya Deville could do some William Regal shit when he was GM. Put herself in the Money in the Bank ladder match, win it, and just be tyrannical with it. And I think if the writing was there, it could be somewhat decent. I mean, certainly not storyline of the year, but decent. So I would say for heels, Sasha or Sonya, but definitely more Sasha, because with Sonya, they don't even know if they want her to be a heel, and that's a huge problem. But Sasha, definitely, because she hasn't even won it yet. So I think that'd be really cool. Boss Bank, or Boss in the Bank, it just writes itself. So I think we answered that question pretty well. Next question.
Money in the Banks, right?
You fucking know it.
Yeah. Third question from Mark. What could WWE actually do to make make Survivor Series bigger than SummerSlam this year?
SummerSlam bigger than Survivor Series?
No, other way around. To make Survivor Series bigger than SummerSlam this year.
We keep going back to it, Mark. Incentive. Incentivize these fucking matches. Like, if Raw beats SmackDown, they should get the number 30 spot in the Rumble. They should get maybe they should even do like the NFL, dude, where it's like, well, they'll get the number 1 draft pick, or they'll get so many draft picks in SmackDown. Maybe they lose these draft picks or whatever. But you've got to add incentive. Maybe You don't even get to have to wait for the draft because maybe right then and there you can poach two SmackDown people, or maybe just one SmackDown guy and one SmackDown girl. But like any incentive you come up with, there's got to be something, because bragging rights, they don't exist. It's illusory. It's an invisible brass ring. Like, give us something. I mean, would you agree with that? Because I feel like we've been beating that drum for years, so I don't see why you'd start disagreeing with it. So yeah. I'm guessing you and I are on the same page?
Yeah, I would say, like, sole survivors get to choose their Rumble spots is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Perfect. That right there, that alone is so good, because I'm already thinking about January then. And advanced promoting never hurts when you do it right.
Yeah.
So, love it.
Another thing I would say is, like, if they're going to make Survivor Series bigger than SummerSlam, they've got to have actual names on it. Like, they've got to have a debut or two. Because Survivor Series seems to be, like, the go-to pay-per-view for debuts, right? Like, they rarely debut anyone on WrestleMania. SummerSlam sometimes. But Survivor Series is like, let's fucking debut some people, right?
Right, of course, yeah.
Shield debuted at Survivor Series. I want to say Ryback might have. I don't remember. I think it was his first ever match on the main roster, at least. Like, fucking Undertaker Survivor Series debut. Like, Survivor Series is a good place for debuts. So, maybe this year, we could have, like, Io and Finn both have, like, main roster debut / returns.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I think that could work.
Certainly make it bigger than SummerSlam, because it seems like they've got some huge plans for SummerSlam. Maybe like The Rock wrestles or some shit. But like, cause like
yeah,
seeing like SummerSlam is gonna be like fucking Cena's gonna show up, and we're gonna get Lesnar, and like it's gonna be huge. Like we're gonna get like fucking Cena Reigns and Lesnar Lashley at SummerSlam is what it's looking like, and that's, I don't know how they're gonna one up themselves from that. Like that's crazy. But yeah, I think giving the matches incentive would be a big help, and then having a big debut from NXT or two would be a big help, and maybe just having a big name or two on the show would help too. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So right. Next question.
Yeah, fourth question from Mark. Do you think that NXT will ever have its own Money in the Bank?
Yeah, actually I do, the more I think about it.
Same.
I think you give it enough time, they'll do something like that for sure. What do you think, man?
Dude, the thing is, I think they might have had their own Money in the Bank by this year even. Like, this year might have been the debut of it, or they might have started getting it last year. More likely this year, if it wasn't for COVID. I feel like COVID fucked up NXT's growth so much because of all the goddamn morons that work in NXT that just didn't take this pandemic seriously and threw COVID parties and just didn't care about it. And like Vince was like, we're keeping them away from the main roster now. Because remember, 2019, NXT participated in Survivor Series. That didn't happen last year. I'm hoping it happens again this year. But like, NXT participating in Survivor Series was the cool... Maybe there it is! NXT participating in Survivor Series. That's how you make Survivor Series bigger than SummerSlam this year. Right there, boom, it's back.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a 100%. Huge thing. I can't believe I didn't think about that when we actually had that question. Mark, your questions are making me reference each other. That's crazy. So
nice.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, like NXT's wrestlers being just irresponsible, and like obviously referees, since one of them in specific got fired recently, thank Christ. Although he wouldn't agree with that exact statement. I think that, I think that if it wasn't for the pandemic, and really specifically if it wasn't for the NXT wrestlers just being irresponsible fucks about it, and not all of them, but some of them, which is enough, it might have had its own Money in the Bank in this year's Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Especially because they're going to have a crowd, right? They're going to have a crowd for Money in the Bank this year, aren't they?
Yeah, they should. They should, absolutely.
Yeah, so, like, I'm sure Vince would have loved to have an NXT Money in the Bank ladder match this year if NXT would have still been somewhat intertwined in the main roster product last year, which it wasn't because of the irresponsible parties, we'll say. It applies to two different ways. So I don't think we're going to get this year. We could get it next year, though. I think it could happen as early as next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I could totally see it happening.
All right. So fifth and final question from Mark. If you could create an Among Us map, what kind of features would it have?
Huh.
John's just like, hallways everywhere so that there is no uncertainty about where we're going.
Yes, absolutely. Just a giant tunnel. Everything connected.
Just a straight line. The new map is a monorail.
Yes. That's exactly it. The new map is the monorail. Last person alive gets to drive the monorail till the end of time. Perfect. 10 out of 10 would kill again.
So what actual features would you have, though?
Well, I would have a coffee machine on the monorail, and if you drink it, maybe you up your speed so you're more easily able to evade the imposter and get to the emergency button. I would have buttons on the monorail, so maybe if you speed it up, you kind of send everybody back. So maybe the imposter was close to a kill, but somebody sped up the monorail, so now everybody falls back a few spaces. Or you could slow it down, making kills even easier. Yeah, this monorail idea is the shit. Yeah, let's do it. Let's see, what other features? Actually, in all seriousness, if I was to add features, and it's funny because I do think about this for some games. Like I know Ash and I play Brawlhalla a lot, and there are features I've thought about with that. But with Among Us, I don't know. I feel like maybe I would do it like a possession feature. Like if you're a ghost, you could possess somebody that's alive and direct them. Maybe your only power is to direct them to your body, so you can maybe do an additional report, just so that you can maybe slow the kill count down. So cool. I think a possession would be a good idea.
Overpowered, though.
It might be a bit overpowered, but we're just spitballing here, and I can't think about just perfect features, but just features in general. So
yeah,
I'd say
those are more like actual gameplay features, not so much map features.
But map features are harder for me. Maybe you could actually like tasks for members, because that's the thing. As an imposter, you can hide in vents. I feel like people that are on the ship should have little secret places to hide as well on maps. So maybe like, say for example, you know how in Cargo Bay with the big ship, you have to like unlock the safe.
Yeah.
Maybe when you do that task, you've also kind of given yourself a hiding place because you can hide in the safe if you want to. And then, then the imposter would have to go crack the safe and open it and stuff like that. So maybe I would make that a map feature. Like certain objects are also hiding places for people trying to evade being killed.
And the imposter would have to do what effectively amounts to a task to open that hiding place up and see if someone...
Right, which also still helps the imposter, because then the imposter can say, which is kind of a half-truth, oh, I was doing this task,
right,
when really what they were doing was trying to commit a murder. So you still, I think, keep it pretty even-handed, because when they're like, oh, where were you? Oh, I was doing the safe task, which technically true, but you were just trying to find somebody hiding in that safe. Right. I think that'd be a really cool map feature.
I love that idea. That's a really good idea, man.
That's the one I'm going to go with, because honestly, I'm maxed out. I'm not good with questions like this, so I'm just going to go with that one.
All right. So my Among Us map is a space mall.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's like 6 or 7 stories, but there's only like 1 or 2 rooms on each story, and the rooms are like quote-unquote rooms. It's really like donuts. It's like concentric donuts going up like 6 or 7 stories. Each donut is either one big room or 2 rooms split in half. And like the way that you navigate is with elevators, and you can get into an elevator, you can pick a floor, it'll take you to that floor. You don't have to do any tasks to work the elevator, you just get in. Maybe like the first task of every game is like an insert keys like you do on Polus. And once your key is inserted, you have access to the entire thing. And if you're an imposter and you don't have the key task, there are vents that can take you from one story to the other, so you don't have to worry about it. And then like each story will have different tasks on it. You get from floor to floor with the elevator. You actually get to be inside the elevator and see your little character inside the elevator, and there's a vent in the elevator, so the imposter can kill in the elevator if they want to. I would want it to be like Mira in the sense that all of the tasks or all of the vents are connected, because I think that that's a really interesting little gameplay mechanic that Mira has. Makes you a lot more paranoid. It makes it a lot more difficult to know if someone killed and then got away, or if they're like venting around or not and stuff like that. So I think it's like a multi-story, simple round map with only 1 or 2 rooms per story, but then there's an elevator, and the elevator is like the point of tension, because you get in and there's a vent there, and you have to pick what story you want to go to, and maybe you want to be a little more careful, because like obviously the closer the floor you choose to where you currently are, the faster the elevator will go. Like say you're on the ground floor and you want to go to the second floor, that'll be a hell of a lot faster than going from the ground floor to the 7th floor, right? So the longer you're in the elevator, the longer you're a sitting duck for the imposter to be able to kill you through the vent. So I think that would be a really fun little idea.
I fucking love that idea, sir. You are very inspired.
Next set of questions are from Rotten Butter, and the first one is the Rotten Butter question. He literally said Loki and other stuff from this month. So he knows Loki. We still have to watch episode 3, so no spoilers on that.
Yeah, as far as with the family, watching, I think that happened this month where we watched the latest season of The Challenge that's on Paramount Plus. We're watching this new show called Loudermilk, which is amazing. Oh my God, I love it so much. So that's been great. Music-wise, Nevertell came out with some new stuff that I love. Nevertell's fucking great. Waiting for Mosaic to come out with more stuff. Those are my fucking boys right there. Love you, Mosaic. Still listening to rap stuff. I think Joyner Lucas came out with some new stuff that I listened to. That's been a lot of fun. I've been wanting to listen to more Lil Baby. I think this weekend, because I'm going to take this weekend is to like really decompress, because again, I've had a very eventful week. I know Lil Baby put down an album. Oh yeah, that reminds me. That was one big thing music-wise I did this month. I thought I was going to forget. I can't believe I remembered this. I listened to Polo G's latest album, Hall of Fame. I don't know why Polo G gets all the hate that he gets. I'm personally a fan. If we got any hip-hop fans in here, I'm starting to become more literate. Let's talk about it, because like I'll just get smarter talking to you guys anyway, and maybe I could even like point you in the direction of something, which would be really fucking cool. I need to get on the Discord more, because I know we have a music channel, and again, guys, it's only $3 a month. So anybody in the music channel that's on our Discord, if you're into hip-hop and rap, talk to me, because Polo G's latest album was kind of fire. I enjoyed it. Paintings, I think, was my favorite song on there. I can't believe I'm able to talk about music like this. This doesn't even feel right. But yeah, what else? So Loudermilk, Polo G's album. We're obviously still doing the MCU. We did Endgame this month, and I think Infinity War this month as well. Both of them.
I mean, yeah, we pretty much finished the Phase 4 section of the MCU. We got through like, and the Wasp.
Yeah.
Like Ant-Man and the Wasp and Infinity War, the last 2 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., last 3 seasons really, Endgame, like that whole group. And I don't know if we did this last month, but we finished Runaways. I think we might have been like at the end of season 2 last month when we did this. I don't know, but we finished Runaways, we finished AOS, we got through Ant-Man and the Wasp, we finished Punisher, we finished Jessica Jones and Daredevil. We got through both of the last 2 Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. So as far as that goes, we are caught up to the end of Phase 4. Next on our list is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then we're going to do WandaVision, and then we're going to do a rewatch, basically, of Loki, because John and I are literally in the process of watching Loki right now. And then, after all that, we're going to do Far From Home, because Far From Home takes place 6 months after the events of Endgame. And it's still, like, the latest thing to happen chronologically in the MCU so far.
Yeah.
And it will be until, like, September, I think? Maybe even later, because even Black Widow takes place in like 2016 in the MCU, because it's right after Civil War.
Yeah. I know also standard philosophy stuff. I'm actually helping a friend of mine with her PhD, so I've been reading a lot of Roman philosophy. Newsflash to my fellow nerds. We all know what's up. We all know the Greeks. Greek philosophy greater than Roman philosophy. I just wanted to say it publicly for posterity, because I know it'll make her really mad. And I love her. She's great. But yeah, I've been helping her with her PhD. Hey man, these are the serious culture wars, okay? You don't want none of this. But yeah, so I've been doing that. What else? Oh yeah, I played those. I don't know if anybody's ever played the Jack in the Box games, but we did that because I had family over the past few days, and a lifelong family friend of mine, and her, me, my sister, and my brother-in-law. We all played that, and it comes with a great series of games. Like we did Fibbage, which is pretty much like
we literally played that game together. You, me, my mom, Mark, Jackie, like all of us. Played.
That's right, yeah.
A version of Fibbage. Yeah, it was the Jackbox Party Pack. Yep.
Yeah, and she had like 3, 4, and 7. And I think 7 was like a newer one.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
The one that we played was 2, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 7 was really good. 7, I think, had a lot of fun games. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoy that shit. Is there anything else?
We might have to start doing something like that on Mondays instead of Among Us every single week.
Yeah, if the Discord would be up for it, I'd be totally down for that. That is fun as fuck. I love it. You know what? I can't think of anything else, and I'm not going to waste time with oohs and ums because that's not compelling content. Unless you guys enjoy the vibrations of my vocal cords, maybe we can work something out. Maybe we need a new Patreon tier. Yeah. But I'm gonna. Jesus Christ. I'm going to hand the reins over to Ashton. Let the normal person talk about what they did this month. It's all you, bud.
No, don't call me normal. I'm about to talk about a fucking obscure-ass anime that hasn't been on TV in 16 years.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. Do it. Own you. Own you. Let's hear it.
I watched the first episode of Shaman King, which came out in like 2004, I think, maybe earlier than that in the U.S., because it's literally getting remade. Like, I think it's literally in the process, like, right now. It's airing in Japan. Like, it's probably, like, 10 or 15 episodes in Japan. Maybe 20, I don't know. Of the 2021 remake of Shaman King, which is apparently supposed to be like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, more true to the manga, than the original Shaman King was. But I watched the first episode of the original subbed. I did watch it subbed. I couldn't find it dubbed. I would have watched it dubbed if I could, but I couldn't find it. So I watched it subbed because it was on Anime Freak or something like that. I fucking love the concept of the show. I'm very interested in it. And John, I'd be willing to watch the show with you if you'd be down.
I've heard about Shaman King for a long time. Hell, if you're in, that'd be something cool for us to do. So I'm not opposed.
Yeah. Show-wise, I don't really watch television shows that much if it's not with John. Like, the two of us have our shows that we're interested in together, that we watch together, and other than that, I've watched a few movies with my mom, but I don't think I've watched any new movies with my mom. I think everything that I've watched with my mom this month has been stuff that I've seen before. You know, stuff like Dread, which was great. Obviously, Dread's a fucking great movie. Copaganda, you know, regardless, aside, it was still a really entertaining movie. What was the other one that we watched yesterday or the day before? I forget. It was Dread and The Nice Guys. That was the other one. The Nice Guys is such a great movie. That's a genuinely, like, that's just a fucking great movie. You could make an entire buddy cop HBO series out of that, and I would watch the shit out of that. It would be incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that about covers, like, the stuff that I haven't done with you that you didn't already cover on, like, the Marvel stuff and everything like that. Obviously, we watched the first episode of Season 5 of Rick and Morty. We've watched the first 2 episodes of Loki so far. We want to watch the third. We've watched the first episode of Dave Season 2. We're going to watch the second one tonight when this is over.
So excited to do that, by the way. I fucking
Actually,
love Dave.
really, we watched the first 2 episodes of that because the debut was 2 episodes. And we've got to watch the third one of that tonight as well. I think that's about it. As far as music goes, really the only 2 things I want to talk about. Fucking Willow Smith, John. Do you remember Willow Smith put that song out? I whip my hair back and forth, like that whole thing.
Yeah. Didn't you tell me that they dropped something that might have been fire, or am I thinking, like, misremembering?
She made a fucking pop punk song with Travis Barker.
That's right. You Facebooked me about that.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get people to know, and no one's listening to it. It's frustrating. I really posted it in the Discord to no response whatsoever. It's called Transparent Soul, and she's just going by Willow now. This is Will Smith's daughter, by the way, for those of you that aren't caught up on this. Willow Smith, and she's just going by Willow now, in all caps, stylized. And she just put out a song called Transparent Soul with Travis Barker. It's really fucking good. I love it. And kind of going along those same lines of, like, hip-hop artists making the transition to pop punk out of goddamn nowhere. Apparently, at some point last year, MGK, Machine Gun Kelly, decided to do the same goddamn thing, put out a whole-ass pop punk album in, like, September of 2020 that I did not know about. I recently discovered it, and I have been listening to it obsessively. I love it. It's amazing. It's definitely where I park my car.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so good. I never thought I'd see a day that I'd be a fucking Machine Gun Kelly fan, but as it turns out, if you make pop punk, you're probably going to win me over.
Yeah.
So, Music wise, though, that really is like I feel like this month has been just like chilling, trying to survive the heat, watching our Marvel stuff at night, and for me, it's been mostly just like laptop conversations. Like I spend probably 70% of my screen time in the suggest a laptop server on Discord. So it's it's probably not good for me, but man, I'm just helping so many people. And that's the thing is like I've been doing this for so long now and I'm so like in the know and savvy on this stuff that I've become a helper now. Like I'm the one giving other people advice on what laptop to get and telling other people like what a good value is for their money and stuff like that. Like it's kind of fulfilling, I gotta say. It's like I could see myself doing this in like an actual store, like ordering certain laptops to sell and stuff like that. But I don't know. We'll see.
I find your face very fulfilling. Just speaking from personal experience, I
Thank you
honestly,
so much.
as far as customer satisfaction, I would give it 5 stars, and it was very helpful with my problem, which was existing. You've made it a lot easier. So,
all right. Second question from Rotten Butter. At what point do you think it's justified for a government to use violence, either home or abroad?
that's a really tricky question for me, honestly, because I never. Perfect example, Rotten Butter, right? There's been a lot of talk about the January 6th riots and like what to do in response to that because a lot of people did want government action. I'm going to be truthful. Obviously, I was against the riots. It was horrifying, this and that. I was wary, though, about asking the government to be the solution because you can always count on government to take a tragedy and augment it for its own political purposes. Mm-hmm. So, like, for 9/11, right? Perfect example. Patriot Act. Spy on every American. But they use it under the cover of, now, guys, you all saw 9/11. You don't want that to happen again, right? And the same thing here, because you can already see that the way that they're defining extremist and this and that will include things like anti-capitalist or this and that. So really, it's going to come to the point where an extremist is identified by somebody that deviates even ever so slightly from the status quo. And even if they're like nonviolent, which has never stopped a prison before, think about how many people are incarcerated for quote-unquote victimless crimes, which should be an oxy-fucking-moron and is an oxy-fucking-moron, but it's a lived sociological reality for many people. I think that they're going to use these January 6th riots to suppress more quote-unquote left-wing groups like Black Lives Matter, like Antifa, which isn't even an organization, it's an idea. We've been over this, but you get my point. Like anti-fascists that go to stop fascists that are organizing. If we're and I say lucky, I shouldn't even say that word. What could happen with these new measures is everybody gets rounded up, right? Yep. So it really is Trump's words come to life. There are bad people on both sides, yep. Or the opposite of what he said. There are fine people on both sides. But yeah, I really worry about answering this question in any kind of affirmative. Because historically, when you look at it, when you give the government the affirmative, which is to say, oh, they were right to use this kind of action or they were right to do this kind of intervention, it always leads to something, maybe even not necessarily worse, but still really bad. So I'm weary about answering this in any kind of affirmative capacity. I don't know, Ashton, do you think I'm overreacting? How do you feel?
No, dude, here's the thing. When I think about questions like this that are really like gray area, how do I answer this? I try and break it down. Okay, so what is the purpose of a government? The purpose of a government is to help people who need help that can't get it themselves, right?
Right.
In what scenario does a person need help due to anything other than the government not doing enough to help them?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like the government or in this case, the agents of the government, aka police, are helping society. They're a fucking drag on society. Like, they're a fucking parasite, right? So,
yeah.
If you're asking if it's justified for a government to use violence, I think that the biggest problem is governments using violence at all. I think the government should be the last thing to be able to impose violence. Because at the end of the day, if a government needs to impose violence, it means that government is not there because of the will of the people. It means that they're there against the will of the people. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right, and I would add to that just to kind of put a nice little term on it. any government that has to use force, especially domestically, I want to focus on that specifically, to get something done, is an illegitimate government. Right. And a government that needs to use force abroad, I would just say about that, which is true, even if it is a heinous thing or a heinous government that they're exercising it on abroad, they're willfully violating the sovereignty of another country.
Exactly.
That's why I'm always sticking by the U.S.
That's exactly what I was going to go to, dude. Exactly. So basically, if governments stopped exercising violence, then there would be no need for a government to exercise violence. Like, I know it's a tautology, but at the end of the day, what need could a government have to exercise violence abroad to prevent another government from exercising violence, right? So,
right, yeah.
At the end of the day, if there's another government out there that's exercising violence, that problem is not another government's problem to solve. That problem is that country's own people to revolutionize and solve. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right. I'm with you 10,000%.
I think pretty much the same. Like, this is kind of another big thing that's kind of been developing in me for the last year or so, since the beginning of the COVID stuff and the riots and the George Floyd stuff and the protests and all that stuff, right? It's like the government, it's not their job to bring violence upon anyone. And dude, here's another cool thing. I literally was just reading this, I think last night, when I was going on my little Reddit scrolling binge where I sent you that link to that fucking husky freaking the fuck out because it didn't want to get a bath.
That was great, by the way.
Yeah,
that was great.
So I saw this tweet from a veteran, I think a former U.S. Marine actually, saying, if you are a former U.S. military something or other, I don't know the exact wording that they use, but if you were in the U.S. military, you've got to be disgusted with the state of police these days, because in the military, you are taught violence is a last resort, killing as a last resort. You're literally taught, even if there's a fucking tank charging down your fucking barrel, you are taught de-escalate, 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 wave your hands, flash them signs, do anything, use your voice, anything that you can to stop them from getting into a position where you feel the need that you need to prevent them from doing it physically or forcefully. And even then, they're taught to do their best to disable, and not disable cause permanent disability, but prevent them from moving, not in a permanent way. You're taught to stun first, not kill first. And then you've got cops running around shooting first and asking questions later.
Exactly.
Even the fucking military, who are people whose only jobs it is to inflict fucking violence, for fuck's sakes, are taught to use violence as a last resort, and even if you have to use violence, only kill as a last resort. And then meanwhile, cops, whose job it's supposed to be, now I emphasize supposed to be because we all know it's a bunch of bullshit and their real job is to protect private property, but it's supposed to be protecting people. They're the ones that get all willy-nilly and go around shooting people and not having a problem with it. And if they feel even mildly threatened, their first resort is to whip their gun out and shoot someone.
Right.
So that is an extension of the government. The government is the problem here. And I sound like such a conservative or a libertarian or something saying, oh, the government is the problem. But in this case, you even said it, dude. The state is the problem. The state having a monopoly on legal use of violence is the fucking problem. The state is the problem. The state being able to use violence consequence-free is the problem here in the first place. So is it ever justified for a government to use violence? In my opinion, no.
Yeah, and I would agree 100%. So,
all right. Third and final question for Rotten Butter. Do a lot of people not know they're robots?
Oh, God. Why do these questions fuck me up every time?
This is straight from Loki, episode 2, or episode 1 even. Episode 1 of Loki.
Yeah, oh my God. Things are moving at such a pace, I've already forgotten that. But yeah, wow. I just gotta always assume it's a quote or something and not look too deep into it, because that's my mistake every time. Next set of questions.
Next final set of questions are from Alex Foster. First question from Foster. If you two were co-GMs like Sonya and Adam Pearce, What things would you fight about over the course of the show?
And I'm saying Jomo should hold the title for 7 years. Dude, he's 40. Let it go. No, your face lets it go. And then I storm out angrily. So, for me, I'm just fighting because I'm a bitch and I always want my faves to go over. Ashton's fighting because he wants the show as a whole to be good. So, and I am going to lie, that is totally us. So, that's going to be my answer to that.
Do you hear how much I'm arguing with you over here?
Yeah. Ashton's like, nailed it.
Oh, I love it when you come out and admit to being irrational and just like own it. And you're just like, yeah, I'm irrational. What of it? Fuck you.
You know, we're going to find your irrational points one of these days where I'm actually more rational in situations.
Think of all the dumbass hills that I choose to die on. Come on.
That is true. And oddly enough, I am the one that pulls you back like Ashton, no, come back. It's okay. No, it's not. I know. But it's over. God, society is hard. I'm in a weird mood. Forgive me, guys. Next question from Foster. Or actually, no. Do you have something you want to submit? Because I think that question was from Foster.
You hit the nail on the head. You're absolutely right. It would just be me trying to keep things down to earth and reasonable, and you wanting to go off into Never Never Land, and me trying to bring you back down and us arguing over
that. Yeah.
Second question from Foster. If y'all could make any spin-off show for your favorite TV character, who would it be?
Spin-off show for any TV character?
I have an answer for this already.
Okay.
I want an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spin-off, Agents of S.W.O.R.D., featuring Agent Daisy Johnson under director Mackenzie.
Oh, that's so fucking good. Fuck that answer. That's perfect.
Out in space, baby. Space Rangers. Hell yeah.
Man, that's so fucking good. Fuck you. That's a really good answer. Damn it. Because I have answers, but I don't even like any of the answers I've come up with like in my head. Because I'm thinking about stuff you could do with like, say, Adventure Time and stuff like that. You know, maybe you could actually do a spin-off with Kipo. Because they did like that flash forward at the very end.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do that, but like either keep with the same characters with like new adventures, or like focus on a new generation or another portion of that universe. Because universes like that are so colorful and vibrant, I feel like you could always tell a variety of stories with them. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe because dude, you're gonna have to refresh my memory because you know like the burnout that I'm suffering from given everything that happened. So I'm gonna be a bit slower than I'm used to with Kipo. I know Kipo used to live underground, right? And that was the whole thing, was they had an underground society, and then something happened that allowed her to come above the surface. I think she got separated from her family or something, right? So what if that was the spinoff?
They basically had to like send her away because the fucking lady that was running things found out that she was half mute and like wanted to take her DNA basically.
Right. So like, what if that was it? What if that was almost like a prologue spinoff where it's like, you just look at life underground, like extensively, and maybe not even with Kipo because we already got to see her journey. And I feel like you don't make an interesting character that you've already traveled with more interesting by putting them in a reduced environment. Because she went from underground to the surface, right? So you don't bring her back underground because then you're gonna have to raise the stakes to kind of like neutralize that effect. So I would focus on a new character, and it would just be life underground for those people. Maybe they even knew something was coming or something was happening, and they tried to ward people and they got stopped, or maybe something else. But yeah, I think that'd be interesting. Just going back to the Kipo universe and either still focusing on the surface, but another region of the surface with other people, or just next gen, older Kipo, older, friends and stuff, and just new adventures. Or you scale it back, you go back to the underground, and you really have an intimate look at life underground and just the culture and everything else. I think that could be really interesting too.
I thought of another one while you were talking.
Sure, okay.
Arya Stark sailing west of Westeros.
See, that would be one I could sink my teeth into. Yeah, especially with those fuckers out of the picture.
Yeah. So, no D&D allowed. It's just fucking George R.R. Martin behind the scenes fucking ghostwriting this shit.
Exactly. All right.
Third question from Alex Foster. Anything about getting older that you're actually looking forward to?
Not giving a shit nearly as much as I do now, probably. Just being like, you know, I'm just trying to live my life day by day. And by give a shit, I don't mean like in terms of socio-political causes. I just mean being in my own head so much all the time. And I think when you're older, maybe in some ways that gets worse because the pains amplify and you're wondering like, oh God, is this it? But I think in another way, you really just give less of a shit what people think about you. And man, maybe I'm just basing that off of my grandmother, who clearly doesn't give a shit what other people think about her because she has no filter. And I'm just thinking like, you know, in some ways, as long as I'm not toxic about it, that doesn't sound so bad, honestly. So yeah, that would be something I'm getting older. I think really what I'm trying to say is maybe just more self-confidence as I like age into my body. And I'm like, you know what? I've got a good rhythm with my life going on right now. What about you, man? What are you looking forward to about getting older?
I want to be a rare, cool old guy who gets it.
Yeah, there you go. You're going to be that guy. Yo, you fighting the system? Yeah. Yeah, fuck them up. Amazing.
Dude, I feel like that, coming from like a 70-year-old guy, though, would give a young kid so much inspiration for the world.
Yeah, maybe. As long as they did it right.
If I would say that to like a 25-year-old now, they'd be like, whatever, man, of course I'm going to. But if I would say that to like a 25-year-old and I was like 67, they'd be like, whoa, this is cool. I feel even more inspired to fight the system now.
Yeah, like bonus points if you were an old guy that actually did some shit too. Like,
yeah.
For example, just to give a hypothetical thing, like, oh, I was at the Stonewall riots for like, you know, trans rights and like, you know, the whole saga rights thing and stuff like that. Or I was at maybe Occupy Wall Street or something and did that. I think when you actually have experience, that's bonus points because you don't want it to be. You know what? I was going to say some bullshit, but never mind. But yeah, no, I love the sentiment. I'm totally down with that.
I feel like your words have more weight when you're old, especially if you're not just like that old man yelling at clouds meme.
Yes, 100%. 100%. I mean, dude, like, not to make it about me by any means, and I wouldn't even necessarily call this old by the standards we're thinking of. But, you know, I have colleagues in philosophy. One of my dearest friends, his name's Brian. He's been in the field 30 years. And I think he's like 57, going on 58, or he may even be 58 now. He might have turned it. But, you know, you figure there's an age gap. He's like twice my age at that point. And him saying, like, that he feels I'm good at what I do, like, it just means so much more coming from a guy that's older and has been in the field significantly longer than I have. So I think you're 100% right about that. Yep. So, yeah.
All right, next question from Foster. What should Rick Boogs' finisher be?
Oh, God. He's so fucking swole that I feel like it should be a slam of some kind.
So, I had two thoughts.
Okay.
And I'm going to combine them into one thought. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
He starts out with an abdominal stretch and plays air guitar on the opponent's ribs.
Excellent. Okay.
Transitioned into the Rainmaker.
Wow. You really want to get that Rainmaker to happen. Boom, you're up.
Dude, and the thing is, it works best on someone that's bulky that can make a lariat look like a legit finisher, and he's perfect for it. And it's so simple, like, even if he's not a great wrestler, he can work that into his matches so well.
Supervillain Ashton in that other timeline I mentioned earlier when he's not conquering planets running a wrestling promotion. Send me Boogs. He comes in.
Dude, I literally wanted Lars Sullivan to have the Rainmaker before we found out he was a piece of shit. Like, I want the WWE to give, like, a bulky, intimidating dude the Rainmaker so bad because it's not being used. And, like, it should be. It's so good. Like, WWE's been stealing shit from Japan for decades. Why would they stop at the best thing to come out of Japan in decades?
Boogs, what is the length of your biceps right now? What are you packing? 30 inches? Perfect. Boogs, do you know the Rainmaker? And then, you know, we get it done.
Dude, even if it wasn't an actual ripcord lariat, transitioning from an abdominal stretch where he's playing guitar into some kind of lariat would be perfect.
It really would be, dude. Like all kidding aside, because I'm really falling in love with Supervillain Ashton as a meme. That does sound pretty dope.
Dude, you know what? Do you know about Arya Davari's Hammerlock lariat?
Yeah, I love it actually because I've seen that.
I can even see Boogs doing something like that. You get him into like an abdominal stretch, and you're playing their ribs like a guitar, but then you take your outside foot, you step out with it, and then you step into a lariat onto the opponent, and you slam them down almost like an STO. Like that'd be perfect for him.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Damn, that's some good shit. All right, next question from Foster.
You don't have an answer?
Oh shit, I don't have. Well, it's funny because you and I were both thinking the same thing about like the air guitar. Because I would do like maybe 2 back breakers, and he strums the guitar after each breaker because he's holding him in a position where it almost looked like he's holding the guitar in a way. But abdominal stretch is better for that. And then I would have him lift him up, like throw him up, catch him on his shoulders, and do a reverse DVD as a finish just to start. But yeah, because I think either. Yeah. So, like, either an impact maneuver like that or a strike maneuver like, you know, the Rainmaker, because you're absolutely right. When you've got the big arms and stuff, aesthetically, it looks fucking great.
Yeah, dude, I will say, I almost feel like he would need to have some kind of finisher where he lifts the opponent, because there is nobody that he couldn't lift. Like, his feats of strength would get him so fucking over, it'd be unfair.
Oh, bro, 100%. The only reason I even thought about a lifting finish is because so many of his Twitter videos are him, like, doing the weights while playing guitar. And, like, dude, here's the thing. You can't get disqualified if you don't use a foreign object on the opponent. So maybe I would even make that the finish, where he's doing squats with a guy on his shoulders while playing the guitar, and then he slides the guitar out of the ring and he does like the reverse DVD that I talked about. Just like his Twitter videos, but he's using a person instead of weights. That's it. That's my answer. Yeah, he gets the guitar, plays the guitar, and maybe he even but see, WWE's got to avoid copyright, so he can't do tunes that like Foo Fighters or whatever, but that would be so fucking cool if he could. And he's playing like a tune, maybe even a different tune each time, or he's got like his own playlist. He's got the guy on his shoulders. He's squatting him while playing the guitar.
See, but I'm trying to imagine him doing this to like fucking Commander Aziz. And he wouldn't, I don't think he'd want to be able to play the guitar while he's squatting Commander Aziz, you know?
But what if he could? That's WrestleMania shit right there, dude. Holy fuck.
Or like Big Jordan and fucking Omos. Or like Top Dollar, like.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think for Boogs, and I think you actually make a very great point, because I think there needs to be a finisher that really relies on the visuals, and then there's a finisher that's utility-based that you could do to anybody. Like, that guitar finish is purely visual, because he could do it to, like, 90% of the roster, but for that other 10% that are, like, the big guys, you have the utility finish, and that's why I actually like your.
Where is he getting the guitar from, though, mid-finisher?
Maybe Nakamura slides it to him. I don't know. Look, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying conceptually, it just visually would blow my fucking mind to get a musical performance while he's beating somebody's ass and can't get disqualified for it because the guitar isn't a part of the ass beating. It's the garnish on the ass beating. I love it. We just got to find a way to make it work. I don't know. Wrestling's weird. It'll figure it out. Right. So, next question.
I could just imagine, though, he's got the guy in an abdominal stretch. He does the air guitar. He does the scream, and then he nails him with the lariat.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's too good. Fifth and final question, and the final question of the entire Q&A from Alex Foster. Besides being able to chokeslam Walter, what other impressive things can Malcolm Bivens do?
Well, we've actually seen this on Twitter. He can punk out Adam Cole. Adam Cole was scared of him. He's like, don't you ever take the lad. I think it was like about a soda or something, or a water. And he's like, don't ever touch me again. He's like, all right, sorry. So he intimidated Adam Cole because, you know, real recognize real, and fellow short kings, he realizes Malcolm Bivens has seniority.
I'm glad you brought up the short king thing because I know Foster was going to.
Let's see, what else can Malcolm Bivens do? Oh God, he can do a collab. He can be informed the night of that he's doing a collab with Whitney Houston and just hit every note perfectly. And I know this because he is a Whitney Houston fan. He can single-handedly star in a one-man show for BET and set ratings records. And I think he's also maybe bright about something like that. I know he's bright about something related to BET. He can get Obama's number within a matter of hours and just be like, yo, Mr. President, do whatever. God, what else?
I think mine is the most impressive.
He can intimidate Timothy Thatcher. That's another thing. It's endless. So you know what? I've given more than enough. Ashton, what can Malcolm Bivens do?
He can make Roderick Strong seem interesting.
Well, we should just end the recording right there, because not only was that a great answer, that was a sick fucking burn. Holy shit.
I mean, the sad thing is, it's true. It's like, wait, this guy really can do anything. He made me care about Roderick Strong.
This question almost makes me want to get trending. What can Bivens do? And just have the most ridiculous answers from people come in. Like, I want to make Bivens the new Chuck Norris, because Chuck Norris is gross and Bivens is fucking baller. So let's make Bivens the new Norris. That'd be amazing. All right. Anything else you want to say?
I think not. I think we're done here.
All right, guys. That was wonderful. You're all wonderful. I'm going to make this super quick because I am so fucking hungry. And I know Ash and I have got a long night ahead of just sweet, sweet content. So the next Q&A is going to be July 29th. Woo! I like this because this is after Money in the Bank. So anybody has Money in the Bank related questions after the pay-per-view, there you go. And so July 29th. You've got over a month to get your Q&A questions in, and I'm going to get the pinned tweet set up while I'm talking about it. You guys know, no fantasy booking questions, and we already know in advance we have 10 questions because Hazardous Something will be owed those questions. So I've got to, make a mental note of that. And yeah, get your questions in YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Discord. Non-Patreon donors only get 3 Q&A questions. If you donate to the Patreon of only $1, you get 2 additional Q&A questions for a total of 5. And yeah, get them in July 29th. I think the easiest place to submit them personally is either the Discord, which only costs $3 to access, or my pinned tweet, which is completely free. You can follow me at John_TWitWoW. Again, I'm setting up the new pinned tweet right now. And you can go and you can reply underneath it with your Q&A question. Never a problem. You can also DM me. I don't mind, but the pinned tweet really is a lot easier because I could forget about DMs. And I know it's easier for Ashton, too, because oftentimes he'll just go on my Twitter, he'll pull up the pinned tweet, and then he could just record them that way, whereas he wouldn't obviously have access to my DMs. So, yeah, I just tweeted out the new Q&A tweet. I'm going to pin it to my profile. That is done. So, guys, July 29th, next Q&A. Most immediately, though, my family times are over. Praise Jesus. And now we can get back to grinding and being fucking workhorses. Tomorrow, triple fucking header. Stardom 6:19, 4 p.m. Stardom 6:20, 6 p.m. SmackDown review, 10 p.m. You're going to get all that TWitWoW goodness. We're going to give it to them. And yeah, begins at 4 p.m. tomorrow, guys. I am so fucking excited to be back in the saddle and to do it with Stardom, which I have missed terribly. Oh, yeah, especially after that Dream Cinderella show. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. So be there, guys. It's going to be awesome. Check out everything we're involved in the description box. You know everything of what to do with the thing. You know the thing. I'm going to hand it over to Ashton to take us home.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you all enjoyed our Q&A this week, or this month. Next month's will officially be the 5-year anniversary of our first Q&A. I think. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. So we hope that you're looking forward to that as well. John already mentioned everything that we're going to be doing over the next couple of days. We will be seeing you tomorrow for a doubleheader of Stardom and then our SmackDown review. We hope that you all enjoyed this show. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell, follow us on Twitter and Twitch. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can also subscribe on Twitch, buy our merch on Spring, donate to our Patreon, and share this channel and this video with all your wrestling fan friends and let them in on the best kept secret in the YouTube and Twitch wrestling communities. We are TWitWoW, and we are the workhorses of the YNTWCs, and we will be seeing you tomorrow, Stardom and SmackDown. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then next week, we're just kind of back to usual. We're going to be covering NXT on Tuesday, more Stardom most likely on Tuesday and Thursday, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. And then, of course, next Friday is going to be more SmackDown. So, God, it's kind of crazy that a week from today is going to be the 1st of July. Holy shit. That kind of blows my mind right there. But we hope that you're looking forward to all that, and most importantly, we hope that you're all able to remember to stay tuned.